Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is Neo Yondaime Hokage in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. Chapter 41, Hard Truths. The following day, at the Namikaze estate. Naruto, up and fully dressed early in the morning, was in his study office. It was presently around 6 o'clock in the morning and he was at work designing a counter seal on the curse seal Orochimaru created. Ever since Anko told him about the curse seal, he's been trying to find a way to completely remove it off of Anko's neck. When Anko allowed him to examine her seal yesterday, he realized that removing her seal wouldn't be extremely hard since she hadn't resorted to using its power and influence for a long time. However, he knew that the removal of the seal was going to be a delicate process regardless. Since his analysis of her seal, he's been hard at work in designing an exorcise seal to destroy the seal from off her neck. Designing a seal that'll allow me to exorcise Orochimaru's influence inside that curse seal will take a little more time than I'd like, Naruto sighed with a mess of papers with concept seals scattered over his desk. Several sheets of paper were crumbled around the floor of his desk. But that wasn't all that concerned Naruto. For some time, he's been trying to get in contact with his father. He's been unable to communicate with Minato for quite a while and it started to worry him. Kuwabai, whom Naruto knew was still around, was neither a problem nor a concern for all Naruto cared. Jiraiya, after performing an evaluation on the seal on Naruto's stomach, indicated that the link between him and Minato was damaged as a result of the Fukafujin Naruto had used during his fight with Orochimaru. The Toad-Sunin told Naruto that there's a possibility that the link could be repaired, though he himself wasn't sure how. So far not much of a success has happened in that department and it started to frustrate Naruto. Running his hand through his hair, Naruto sighed and he sat back in his seat. "You look loaded down," spoke a feminine voice. The blonde looked up to see Ryota standing by the doorway. "Loaded down aren't the words I'd use to describe it," Naruto remarked. Ryota walked into the study office while looking at the size of the room that was abound with books and scrolls of different sorts. "Quite a collection you have here, Naruto-kun," Ryota acknowledged as she made her way to Naruto's desk. "Any particular reason why you're here?" Naruto asked. "Going straight to the point, huh?" Ryota said, "I'm cool with that. The reason why I'm here is because there's an issue I've been meaning to ask you about for some time. And that is, during our fight with Orochimaru after he stabbed and poisoned you, the Kubawa Fujin activated and started choking the life out of me. You clearly died after the Funkinjutsu Uji was completed. So where are you getting at?" he asked. "The Kubawa Fujin was designed to kill me upon your death, yet I survived," Ryota pointed out. "The reason for that was because just moments before my last breath I released my hold of the seal on you," Naruto pointed out. "I freed you from your bound to the seal, though I reactivated it after my revival. I didn't want you to die for a self-sacrificing decision I made of my own choice after performing the Fukafuihun. You spared my life again, even though you had it in your power to kill me alongside with you," Ryota said. "Tell me something, if the situation was different and I wasn't there alongside you while you were battling Orochimaru and instead I was elsewhere, would you have still deactivated the seal before your death?" "You shouldn't worry yourself with what-ifs," Naruto replied. "Such scenarios as those aren't ones I would like to dwell on. What-ifs only lead to doubts, and in turn doubts lead to lack of trust and confidence in people and in one's own abilities. Yet you still have the Kubawa Fujin around my neck," Ryota said with a touch of sourness in her voice. "You haven't yet removed it from off me." "You helped me against Orochimaru, that you did," Naruto countered, "and I trusted you enough to release my hold on you. I realized that while you were in Konoha under all of our noses, you could have attacked and killed any one of my friends and family members out of spite, but you didn't. Instead you willingly chose to help and side with me. And for most of the time the seal is left deactivated. The few times I was tempted to use it was to keep your temper at bay. The last thing I need is a younger version of my Kaa-chan going around wrecking everything with her insane strength after going through one of her mood swings because she couldn't ignore some stupid comment an idiot made about her." Rather than getting angry, Ryota grinned at him as she leaned closer to him over his desk. Naruto had a raised eyebrow as her grin grew larger. "Is that why you keep me around?" she teased. "Because I remind you of your beautiful and beloved Kaa-chan? I never knew you were that much of a mama's boy." "Knock it off," Naruto retorted with an annoyed expression. "You're living in my estate out of my good grace and generosity. Be happy I didn't start charging you rent. Since I owe rent, how should I make my payments? Ryota said while not moving away from him. Naruto's sweat dropped at her. Don't worry, I'm sure I'll think of something, girl. I have a name, you know, Ryota said as she moved away from him. Anyway, Naruto-kun, I'll be going. The almighty Sasuke will be here in a while to perform his second day duty of his D-rank mission. I swear his ego is legendary. He talks all day about how he must train harder to become stronger than you to prove his might as an Uchiha and use that power to kill his brother. Damn, talk about your one-tracked mind. You could relate, Naruto joked. Ryota snorted at him. I wasn't that egotistical. A fresh out of the academy genin like yourself can never expect to measure up to my capabilities, Naruto quoted. I believe those were your exact words before you were humbled by yours truly. Whatever, Ryota snorted again before sticking her tongue out at him. She turned and dismissed herself to go on her way before closing the door behind her. Naruto shook his head and sighed. Why do I keep her around again, troublesome girl? Ever since Naruto allowed Ryota to reside in his estate, Ryota made it a habit to pester and tease Naruto whenever she could. Among other things, the other villages weren't too willing to have a former Iwa Kunokai reside as a tenant in their housing complex. Naruto saw that it would be too much of a hassle for both Hiruzen and Tsunade to find a place for the kunoichi regarded as an outcast, much like how Anko was treated. Looking at the time, Naruto saw that he had some time left before he had to go to meet up with his new team. Before then, he had to finish up on the project at hand before him. Getting back to work, Naruto resumed his previous objective in creating a exorcise seal for Anko. Just like your old man Gaki, Naruto looked up to see Jiraiya standing by the doorway with the door wide opened. When did you show up? Naruto inquired. Jiraiya remarked, a ninja never announces when he'll show up. First Ryota, now you, Naruto commented, so what brings you here? Just coming to see how your progress on that seal is coming along, Jiraiya said as he walked into the study room. So how's everything going? Super, Naruto remarked cynically. Orochimaru's curse seal design is a headache to figure out. If my father were here right now, then I'd have no problem in solving this puzzle, I'm sure. He was an ace seal master after all. And with you unable to communicate with him, things have been tough on you, huh? Jiraiya noted. You think? Naruto sighed. So much pressure as to what's expected from a clan leader and member of the village council. You'll get more of that once you're Hokage Gaki, Jiraiya added. If anything, I'd have made a terrible Hokage. Why's that? Naruto asked. Ji-san gave you the position of Hokage first before it was given to Kaa-chan. Surely Ji-san wouldn't have decided to give you such a position if he didn't see you fit for the role. I appreciate your high thinking of me, Gaki, Jiraiya said, but the truth of the matter is that I'm too free-spirited and I've devoted too much of my time tracking down the Akatsuki and other organizations Orochimaru had ties with to settle down as a village leader. Plus it would cut too much into my time, leaving me with close to no time for my research. You mean peeking? Naruto teased. Honestly, Ero-jisan, I could have imagined what kind of Hokage you could have been. I mean, Naruto joked, as Hokage, you could have passed a law making it mandatory that all kunoichis were to wear tight leather dominatrix uniforms, and public reading and advertisement of Ika Paradise would have been granted to all. Peeping over women's bathhouses would have been allowed to males of all ages, and women caught beating up on males for practicing such privileges within these village walls would have been punished with a week of community service, namely, long hours of modeling for your next series of Ika Paradise. Naruto busted out laughing with tears running down his face after seeing Jiraiya's expression. After several moments, however. Why didn't I think of that? Jiraiya shouted while pulling out a pen and notepad. Gaki, you're a genius. Huh, Naruto remarked with a dumbfounded expression as Jiraiya looked at Naruto with a large lecherous smile on his face. What's with that look, Ero-jisan? Naruto asked Jiraiya. You've just given me a whole new idea for one of my new books, Gaki, Jiraiya said as he scribbled away and recording everything Naruto said a moment ago, not wanting to lose one word of it. Gaki, you're a gold mine of inspirations. This will be my next bestseller for sure. Naruto's sweat dropped at the blunder he made. He didn't expect Jiraiya to jump right back up on his feet so soon from those mocking jokes he made about all the ridiculous nonsense Jiraiya could have done as Hokage. I thought you'd be upset about all those jokes I said about all that stuff you could have done as Hokage, Naruto commented. I told you, Jiraiya replied, I'd make a terrible Hokage. However, what you said moments ago will make an excellent addition to my stories. Now all I need is a name for this next bestseller. What have I unleashed? Naruto mumbled under his breath as he rubbed his temples in annoyance. Oh, I'll think of it later, Jiraiya said after writing down everything he heard from Naruto. Putting his pen and notepad away, Jiraiya looked over at the blonde and said, Well Gaki, I bothered you enough, so I'll be on my way now and leave you to your work. Thank you, Naruto said. Now that I helped you, I can get back to work in helping Anko-chan and ridding her of that curse seal's effects on her. Jiraiya saw from the looks in Naruto's face and voice that the blonde cared for the older female more so than he lets on sometimes. With a thought in mind, Jiraiya went off to his next destination. Later that morning, at the training ground, Konohamaru, Udon, and Mogi were standing together while waiting for someone to show up. Where is he? Mogi asked. I thought he'd be here by now. Don't worry, Konohamaru assured, Naruto Nyakin will be here at any moment. Well, Udon spoke up, I hope what he has planned for us will be no sweat. Did somebody say sweat? A voice called out. The trio looked up to see Naruto standing on top of the tree in front of them. The elite Jounin flipped down and landed gracefully before them. Sorry for the hold-up, Naruto said, I was tending to Sasuke's mission at my estate. What mission? Mogi asked curiously. Nothing for you to worry about, Naruto assured, so long as you follow my directions. Anyway, I'm here now, so let's get this started. Since we already know each other's names and backgrounds, let's just skip to telling each other what our goals are. So I'll start. My goals are to revive my dying clan and to surpass my father Yondaime and my Kaa-chan, Go-Dame, and become Hokage. Many believe that you already surpassed them, Naruto Nyakin, Konohamaru said. Naruto smiled and replied, I don't think so really. And since you spoke, why don't you go next? What are your goals in life? My goals are to outdo Naruto Nyakin and become Hokage, Naruto figured he'd say. To be recognized as Sarutobi Konohamaru and not just as the honorable grandson of Sandaime Hokage. My other goal is to become Nanaime Hokage, the 7th Hokage, and protect this village like you, Jiji, and the Hokages before me. Nanaime, Naruto asked curiously, seeing how Konohamaru had regarded him as his rival/friend, what about Rokudaime, the 6th? You're the only one who'll become Rokudaime, Naruto Nyakin, Konohamaru answered, I'm going to be the one who'll succeed and surpass you. We'll see, Naruto grinned, okay Mogi, you're up. My goal is to become a great kunoichi like your friend Ryota. Hearing that statement caught Naruto completely by surprise. Really now? Naruto asked. Mogi nodded, that's right. She's sassy just like me and I like her attitude. Plus I know she must be very strong since you told us about the way she fights. So I want to become just as strong as her and protect my friends. Interesting, Naruto noted, alright Udon, you're next. Well, Udon started while adjusting his glasses, my goals are to become a brave and great strategic ninja, and keep Konoha from facing another invasion. Looks like I rubbed off on them a bit, Naruto smiled internally, I noticed a common theme with all three of you, you all seek to become strong so you could protect something you cherish, namely your friends and this village. I like that very much. None of you showed a selfish desire as to why you want to become ninjas. And if we did? Mogi asked. Then I'd have failed all of you, Naruto smiled, and refused to give you three any training while looking for 3 new apprentices at the academy. The 3 of them sweated nervously on hearing that. But that's not the case, so you don't have to worry about that, Naruto assured. They all sighed in relief. Now, Naruto said as he reached into his pocket and pulled out 3 cards, I want to give all 3 of you a little test. What kind of test? Udon asked. Naruto replied, I want you all to pour and focus your chakra into these cards. I want to know what your elemental affinities are. What will that do? Mogi asked. It'll help me in determining what kind of training to give to all 3 of you, Naruto explained, each of you have your own elemental affinity. My affinity is wind just like your Jissen Konohamaru, and wind affinity is rare in Konoha. If you're a lightning type, the paper gets crumbled, If you're a wind type the paper gets torn in half, if you're a water type the paper gets wet, if you're a fire type the paper gets burned, and if you're a earth type the paper turns to dust. He handed each of them a card and stepped in front of them. Alright, whenever you're ready, Naruto stated as the three youths nodded to him. With that said, the trio began focusing their chakra into their cards. Moments later, Naruto saw the following results. Mogi's card turned to dust, Udon's card got burned, and Konohamaru's card got wet. 3 different elementals, Naruto noted, terrific. Damn, Konohamaru complained, I was hoping to get that wind element like you and Asuma-jisan. Don't complain Konohamaru, Naruto rebuked, water in itself is a most powerful element. My great-granduncle Yondaime was a powerful water-type ninja, and to this very day his ability to manipulate water molecules is said to be unrivaled. Seeing that you guys each have different elements, I'll have to develop ways of structuring your training to complement each other. Is that possible? Mogi asked. Of course, Naruto said, but we'll worry about that later. Konohamaru, since you're a water type, I'll arrange for my friend Haku to give you some lessons in manipulating and using water jutsu since she has both water and wind affinities. Mogi, it looks like you get your wish after all. Ryota is an earth affinity kunoichi, so she'll be around to help in your training also. And what about me? Udon asked, feeling a bit left out. I can help you in that area, Naruto assured. I may be wind type, but wind intensifies fire, and I learned to use fire to my advantage with my element. Udon nodded. Naruto further added, before I dismiss all of you, there's one other thing I have to advise you three on. All three looked up at Naruto. I don't mind you guys calling me Nyakan, Naruto made clear, however during training periods and while doing some occasional travelings with me, you all will refer to me as Naruto-sensei. Why? Konohamaru asked. Naruto pointed out, if we were traveling to a foreign territory and one of our enemies heard any of you refer to me as Nyakan, the enemy would change tactics and use our relationship to their advantage against us. We can't allow enemy ninjas to have any advantages against us. Understand? They all nodded. Be here tomorrow for your training exercise, Naruto said as he turned and walked off. Our first training exercise, Konohamaru asked excitedly, are we going to teach us more cool jutsus? No, Naruto remarked, but you'll find out tomorrow what your new training is. Not giving them a chance to ask further questions, Naruto shushed and teleported elsewhere. Well, that went smoothly, Udon commented. So what should we do now? Mogi asked. I don't know, Konohamaru shrugged, then a thought came to mind, hey, let's ask Jiji if he can give us some scrolls that show us some jutsus based on our elements. I doubt he'll grant that request, Udon retorted. Well, it doesn't hurt to ask anyway, Konohamaru countered as he started back to the village with Mogi following after him with Udon coming close by. Meanwhile, Anko was at the dango shop eating her favorite dish of dangos and red bean soup with a side of sake. I wonder what Yondaime Hokage is up to, Anko asked no one in particular. Why don't you ask him yourself, a masculine voice suggested. She turned to see the Toad-Sunin standing over her with a smug grin on his face. She snorted at him, what do you want you old perv? Jiraiya frowned on hearing that. Anko smirked to herself as she was about to eat her last stick of dangos. However, that was denied her when Jiraiya reached out and took the dangos from off her plate and started eating it. Anko growled venomously at seeing that. If it weren't for the fact that you were one of the Sunins, I'd have dash. You don't scare me, Jiraiya retorted as he sat down in front of her at the table she was sitting at. I've faced things worse than you. That same attitude reminded her so much of Naruto. A small blush appeared on her cheeks just remembering that occasion when they first met each other. Thinking about a certain blonde, Jiraiya teased. Anko blushed harder and tried to suppress the redness on her cheeks. Shut up, Anko shot back, I did no such thing. You're lying, Jiraiya replied, I can read you like an open book. Anko pulled out her kunai and threatened, that's not all that'll be open if you don't knock it off. You know you look even hotter when you're angry, Jiraiya grinned, I have to give Naruto credit, he has good taste in women. Anko was boiling and looked ready to lash at the older man. Deciding to be serious, Jiraiya dropped the act, alright Anko, I won't joke around and upset you any further. She placed her kun away. You're still going to buy me that dango you ate? Whatever, Jiraiya remarked. In any case, I want to talk to you about something very important, but not here. Where then? Anko asked. Jiraiya answered, by the entrance of the Forest of Death. Be there. Jiraiya shushed from the spot, after leaving some money for Anko to buy that one dango she wanted. She sighed before taking the money and buying that dango. She then made her way back to location Jiraiya told her to meet him at. It wasn't long before she got there, finding only Jiraiya there. Alright, Anko said, so what is it you wanted to talk to me about? Just something I've been meaning to bring to your attention, Jiraiya said, going straight to the point. When will you tell Naruto the truth? What are you talking about? That incident at the hospital, Anko, Jiraiya made clear. You opened your heart to him though he was in a coma. You kissed him despite the fact he wasn't aware of it. So when are you planning on telling the boy the truth? Anko was shocked, needless to say. She was certain that no one was in the room at the time. But how dash? How I know isn't important, Jiraiya interjected. What is important is that you come clean with the Gaki. He deserves that much, don't you think, considering how close and attached to him you've become? I may be a pervert, but I know female attachments and affections when I see them, and believe me, I saw a lot more than you openly show in public. Damn it, Anko mentally swore, that means he saw everything that happened. I know you love and care for him, Anko, Jiraiya said, and I also know that you're afraid of what'll happen if or when this comes out into the opening. But seeing the way you act around Naruto during your days as his sensei, I see absolutely no reason for you to be afraid to tell him that you have affections for him. Anko was silent as she thought about what the Sunin was telling her. I know that Gaki really likes and cares for you, Anko, Jiraiya said. In fact, one of the reasons why he wanted to befriend you was because of that silly crush he had on you. What? Anko shouted after hearing what Jiraiya told her. The Sunin grinned. Oh come on. I know you knew he always had a crush on you. It's one of the reasons why you were able to get away with a lot of the nonsense you pulled on him. Otherwise, Tsunade would have personally placed you in ICU, intensive care unit, repeatedly, if not permanently. Anko wasn't ignorant to Tsunade's protective nature when it came to Naruto, and her temper was infamous. Anko, Jiraiya continued, I won't lecture you too much about this, but I will advise you that it would best to come clean and tell Naruto the truth about your feelings for him. You opened up to him on deeper levels than you ever did with any other person, not to mention that you flirt with him more so than with any other male, in open public even. So why not tell the Gaki how you feel? The special Jounin found it hard to believe that she was getting advice from the man who self-proclaimed himself as the renowned super pervert. It was an event that was for the record. Whether or not you take my advice is up to you, Jiraiya said as he turned and started walking off, but after all that the Gaki has done and is doing for you, the least you can do for him is tell him the truth about your feelings. That way you won't have to spend the rest of your life with more regrets. Saying nothing else, Jiraiya left Anko alone with her thoughts. Later that day, at the Hyuga compound. Hanabi was in her room sitting on her futon while looking at a picture in her hand. She smiled with a blush on her cheeks before hearing a knock on her door. After hurriedly hiding the picture under her futon, Hanabi got up and answered the door. She opened the door to find Hinata and Niji standing outside her room. Hanabi-sama, Niji said, you and Hinata-sama have been summoned to the meeting chamber. What is this about? Hanabi asked. I myself don't know, Niji said, all I know is that Hayashi-sama sent me to bring both you and Hinata-sama to the meeting chamber where he, the clan elders and high members of the branch house are. Both Hinata and Hanabi knew something big was to take place since all the people Niji mentioned were present at the meeting chamber. Complying, Hanabi stepped out her room and closed the door behind her. All three Hyugas made their way to their next destination. While Hinata and Hanabi were making their way to the meeting chamber with Niji in the lead, both siblings of the main house were wondering what important issue was going to be discussed that required their presence. Nei-chan, Hanabi asked, what do you suppose father summoned us for? My guess is as good as yours, Imuto-chan, little sister, Hinata replied. I'm sure father will explain once we arrive there. After a couple of minutes, all three of them arrived at their intended destination. Upon arrived they found everyone whom Niji mentioned earlier present in the meeting chamber sitting on mats on the floor. Hinata, Hanabi, Hayashi said, "Enter, and sit before me." Nodding, both sisters entered the chamber and went over to the two mats meant for them. The two girls sat down on the mats facing their father while Niji went over to where the rest of the branch house members were. Both sisters couldn't help but feel nervous being in front of all these high nobles of their clan. "Hinata," Hayashi said, breaking the silence, "you and Hanabi were summoned here to discuss a most important matter that will affect the Hyuga clan as a whole, both main and branch house alike. This is a matter that greatly regards the both of you." Now they knew for certain that something huge was going to happen. Both sisters kept their nervousness in check while waiting to hear what their father was going to say next. Niji too was curious to know what could possibly be so big as to affect the future of both houses of the Hyuga clan. Over the course of time, Hinata, Hayashi continued as he looked at his oldest daughter, "You've shown great improvements in both your character and Jiyukin. As both your father and clan leader, I've been most impressed and pleased with your improvements and advancements." Hinata, despite the seriousness of the meeting, couldn't help but smile at receiving her father's approval and recognition. "Hinata," Hayashi spoke with a serious tone, "the reason for this meeting is to discuss the decision made by the council of this clan in regards to your arranged marriage." Hinata, Hanabi, and Niji's heads shot up instantaneously on hearing those words. Before Hinata could say a word, Hayashi raised a palm to stop any potential protests from her. "This was a decision made after your 11th birthday, Hayashi explained. "On the eve of your 16th birthday, you will be wedded, but until then you've been betrothed to this young man since your 11th birthday." Hinata couldn't believe what she was hearing. True, arranged marriages have been practiced by her clan and other clans in Konoha before, but in truth she was hoping that she'd be able to choose for herself whom she wanted to be married to. Hayashi continued, "However, the man to whom you're to be wedded is not of this clan, and because of this, you can no longer carry the title as clan heiress. Therefore the position of clan heiress will be passed down to your younger sister Hanabi." This was a bombshell that shocked both Hinata and Hanabi. Neither of them was expecting any of this. Hanabi knew that her father at first looked down on Hinata because of her past inabilities to measure up to the Hyuga's standards in the art of Jiyukin. But the young girl had seen Hinata's steady improvements in terms of her speech, behavior, and abilities as a kunoichi altogether. Hanabi didn't know if she was ready to fill in the shoes that were soon to be left behind by her older sister. Niji remained silent as he and the others in the chamber watched the scene play out. But Hinata and Hanabi's protests were cut off again when their father raised his hand to silence them. Hayashi saw that his older daughter had no idea what was in store for her. "In order to fully accept your marriage, you are to get to know your betrothed from now until the both of you are wedded. I understand your fondness for the son of Yondaime, however this was a decision made by this council for your benefit. If you refuse, you will be stripped of your position as a member of the main house and be branded with the caged bird seal and placed in the branch family, and you will be forced to marry anyway." Hinata seemed to deflate at this news, while Hanabi was both shocked and speechless. "Hinata," Hayashi said calmly, "you must accept your betrothed. It's what is best for you." The clan leader trailed off as Hinata's tear-streaked gaze met his. She was meek and humble once again. "Whom have I been betrothed to, father?" Her voice was both cold and emotionless, carrying no feelings whatsoever. Hanabi and Niji themselves were taken aback at Hinata's uncharacteristic coldness, but seeing the circumstances they understood why. Hayashi's eyes moistened at the sight of his defeated daughter. "Your betrothed is the son of a Hokage and a very accomplished ninja," Hayashi explained. "He's been revered in other villages as being one of the strongest known ninjas and is feared by many of our enemies. We're certain that you both will produce promising offspring, who will not only be granted full access to the Hyuga compound, but they will be regarded as being part of the main house of this clan despite being part of another clan." The fact that her future children weren't going to be given the birdcage seal was the only good news Hinata heard so far, but that did close to nothing to lighten her mood. "Your betrothed is here, in fact, Hinata," Hayashi said. "We'll present him to you now." Hinata said nothing as her father signaled to one of the branch members to allow the young man into the meeting chamber. Doing as instructed, the Hyuga went over to the door and slid it open, allowing the young man to enter the chamber. When Hinata's eyes saw who entered the chamber, her eyes widened in absolute shock, leaving her completely speechless. "Hinata," Hayashi said, "your betrothed is Namikaze Naruto, the clan leader of the Namikaze clan and son of the late Yondaime Hokage. Hinata's face turned a shade of red. Naruto wondered was humanly possible. Naruto-kun, Hinata stuttered for the first time in a long time, I've been betrothed to Naruto-kun. Hinata could only gape, her gaze switching back and forth between Hayashi and her future spouse. Hayashi smiled, Hinata, the council felt it would be in the best interests of both you and the clan that you be betrothed and later married to the son and sole heir of the late Yondaime Hokage, who in fact is also the sole heir of our Godaime Hokage. We believe it will be considered an honor if our clan and the Namikaze clan united through marriage. But because you are to later carry the name of the Namikaze clan and not the Hyugas, we believe that it would be in the best interest of our clan that your younger sister assumes your soon-to-be former role as clan heiress. This was too much for Hinata to handle. She looked like she was about to fall into a self-induced coma. It took all her strength to keep from fainting from the fact that she was betrothed to Naruto this whole time and only now was told about it. She didn't know whether to jump and hug Naruto tightly and happily or run and embrace her father for arranging all this. Hinata, Hayashi continued, there's more to this than you know and I hope you have an understanding about what I'm about to explain to you. Hayashi looked to Naruto who nodded back to him. At that moment, the Hyuga clan head took the opportunity to explain to Hinata in full details everything that happened in the meeting chamber with the two Hokages and village council in regards to the alliance with Suna. Hinata was shocked when she heard the part about Temari being betrothed to Naruto as a way of solidifying the alliance. Her father also explained that from what he heard from Hiruzen that Temari became very fond and attached to Naruto ever since he helped Gaara in ways that no one else was to. Hayashi was carefully not to mention that Gaara is a Jinchuriki, which in effect would alert Neji and the others to the truth that Naruto himself is also a Jinchuriki. Hayashi also made it very clear that since Naruto is the last of his clan that he was within his rights to have more than one wife in order to revive his endangered clan, according to Konoha's Clan Restoration Act, initiated by Yondaime Hokage. Hinata saw that the arranged marriage between Naruto and Temari involved a lot of politics between two nations and Naruto himself had little to no say in the matter much like herself, especially since the Konoha Council, particularly Hiruzen, Homura, and Koharu, used Naruto's own words and actions as a means to persuade him to consent to the marriage between him and Temari. Since you were betrothed to Namikaze Naruto first, Hayashi made clear, you'll be the one to marry and bear children for him first after you become of age to marry. Hinata blushed heavily at the thought of birthing children for Naruto, it was like a dream come true. The very thought of what having Naruto's children entailed nearly caused a trickle of blood to seep from Hinata's nose. Though Hanabi didn't show it too much however, she couldn't help but feel a bit jealous of her older sister. And speaking of her older sister, Hinata was as quiet as ever as she processed everything that was explained to her. A moment later. Where is Temari going to be residing at since she's to be living here in our village? Hinata asked. Before Hayashi could say a word. At my estate, Naruto answered as Hinata sharply turned to face him, since she's my betrothed as you are Hina-chan, I arranged that both you and Temari live in my estate with me. I already prepared rooms to accommodate the both of you. Hinata's head was spinning. This was a lot more than she was counting on. With all this happening so suddenly, she did the one thing that could happen under such circumstances. Thud. She fainted face down in front of everyone. Hayashi, Naruto, and Hanabi sweat dropped at the sight as did the others inside the chamber. I guess she's in agreement with the whole arranged marriage business, Naruto laughed a little while scratching the back of his head. Later. Hinata opened her eyes and found herself back in her room. She looked around and saw that she was lying on her futon with Naruto kneeling down next to her futon. Hello Hina-chan, Naruto smiled, I'm happy that you're awake again. For a moment I thought that news about our engagement knocked you into a self-induced coma. Hinata sat up and looked at Naruto straight in the face upon hearing those words leave his mouth. Everything that was discussed with her in the meeting chamber all came flooding back to her. She was to be replaced as the Hyuga clan heiress since she's to become the wife of the Namikaze clan leader, Naruto. After regaining her ability to speak, Hinata asked, Naruto-kun. Yes. Were you aware of our engagement or did you recently find out about this? Naruto looked at her and felt she deserved an explanation. I knew about the engagement for more than 2 years, Naruto admitted. Hinata looked at him in total shock. Before she could say a word, Naruto put a hand up to allow him to explain. Hinata said nothing as Naruto started explaining. The truth of the matter, Hina-chan, was that I at first wasn't all that sure about going through the whole arranged marriage deal and having a few wives to marry into my clan. It wasn't because I didn't want to marry you, Hina-chan. It was because I didn't know what my feelings truly were towards you and to marry, Hinata asked. Naruto futility fought back a blush of embarrassment that appeared on his face. Actually, towards you, Ino-chan, and, feeling more embarrassed, Anko-chan. Hinata looked at Naruto in disbelief. She didn't know exactly what to say to him, but she allowed him to continue. I've known both you and Ino-chan for quite a number of years, and all three of us has become the best of friends. I would be lying if I said that we three did not rub off on each other as our bonds strengthened. You both are the very few females in this entire village that sees and appreciates me for me, not as the famed and honorable son of two Hokages. And when you both learned who my father was and my heritage and my status as a Jinhiriki, neither of you turned into fan-crazed girls or ran away in fear of me because of the Baijiu you imprisoned inside of me. Instead, you both grew closer to me and continued to see me for me. There's really a lot more I want to say, but I just don't know the right words to say besides the fact that I grew to love you both. Hinata thought she was on cloud 9 on hearing the latter words from Naruto's mouth. If anything, she had to use all of her force to keep from fainting again. As for Anko-chan, Naruto continued, snapping Hinata out of her trance, believe it or not, she does have feelings for me. The Hyuga looked at Naruto and wondered if he was serious. But when she thought back to the number of times his Jounin-sensei shamelessly flirts, hugs, and always hangs around him, she couldn't find it hard to believe. I don't need Byakugan to see through that, Hinata remarked, and you made it clear that you have affections for her also. Are you angry? Naruto asked. There was a moment of silence between the two. Neither knew what to say at that moment. After what felt like an eternity, Hinata admitted, honestly, I'd be lying if I said was completely upset. After all, blushed deeply, there were times Ino-chan and I did talk about sharing you, just between us. What? Naruto said, being completely caught off guard by that revelation. Hinata giggled at his expression. You both did? Naruto asked with a surprised expression. I wonder what else you both talked about. Another blush appeared on her face. Just things among girls. I can only wonder how Ino-chan will react when she learns about the whole engagement issue regarding you, Tamari and myself. I don't know what that future will bring, especially when everyone else finds out about it, Naruto admitted, but we both will have to talk to Ino-chan about this before any wild rumors start up, especially before Tamari's arrival here in Konoha. And speaking of Tamari, I don't know how she'll react to this whole multiple wives thing and my desire to revive and save my clan from complete extinction. I can't say for sure how she'll take it, Hinata said, but in truth, I wouldn't want to be betrothed to anyone else but you, Naruto-kun. I'll stand by your side no matter what. Naruto looked at Hinata in wonder and asked, do you really mean that, Hina-chan? Mustering up all the courage she could find within herself, Hinata looked up at Naruto before she grabbed and held onto his shoulders. Naruto was cut off when Hinata pressed her lips against his, solidifying her conviction to her previous statement to him. Naruto's eyes widened at Hinata's act. Never did he ever thought that Hinata would make the first move. If anything, he thought he'd be the one who'd have to do so. Accepting the kiss, Naruto closed his eyes and returned the kiss to her. The young Hyuga felt like she was in heaven, as though she could just die happily at that moment. A few moments later, Naruto pulled away to find that Hinata lost consciousness, again, with a beet red blush on her face. She fainted, Naruto said, stating the obvious. Elsewhere, Hanabi was in her room thinking about everything she saw and heard earlier while in the meeting chamber. It went without say that it was a lot more than she was expecting to hear. She pulled out the picture that was hidden under her futon and looked at it again. She sighed as she looked upon the picture with a daydream in mind. I wonder how things would have been if Hanabi's thoughts were cut short when a knock came at her door. Hurriedly hiding the picture again, Hanabi went over to the door and opened it to see Niji standing there again. Hayashi-sama wishes to speak with you, Hanabi-sama, Niji said. Hanabi simply nodded as she stepped out and closed the door behind her. The pair walked in silence when. Who was in that picture you're keeping in your room? Niji asked. Hanabi's head shot up on hearing that. How did you know I had a picture? I saw a small glimpse of it from under your pillow, Niji explained. So who was in the picture? No one to be worried about, Hanabi retorted. Was it a boy? That's none of your business, Hanabi stated. Is he strong? He's stronger than you obviously. Hanabi-sama, Niji replied as he stopped walking to look at the young girl. Get over your silly crush on Naruto-sama. Huh, Hanabi said while failing miserably to fight back a blush on her face. That's not dash. Hanabi-sama, I saw the way you were looking at both Hinata-sama and Naruto-sama. It was evident that you were jealous of your older sister because of her betrothal to Naruto-sama. Plus, numerous times I saw how you would hide behind columns and other large objects in this compound so you could look at Naruto-sama whenever he would come by here. I must admit it was very much outside your character. The young Hyuga wanted to refute Niji, but she didn't know how to go about it. How dare you talk to me like this, Hanabi said indignantly though she was unable to deny what Niji was saying. You have no right to talk down on me with such insolence. I mean no disrespect to you in any way, Hanabi-sama. I'm simply offering you some advice to help you in your development, and my advice to you is to be neither jealous nor envious of your older sister. Such emotions won't bring forth benefits to you as either a ninja, a member of the main house, or as Hinata-sama's sister. You may not like the idea of me telling you this, but I'm only trying to look out for your goodwill, especially since you are now the new clan heiress. Hanabi frowned at the older Hyuga, but she gave him no response as the pair continued on their way to Hayashi's chamber. Stupid know-it-all Niji, Hanabi mentally snorted. Far off from Konoha, Tamari and her Jounin escort were continuing their trek after taking a short break. So far that ran into no trouble and their time traveling was in smooth sailing. While she was making her way to Konoha, she wondered about many things that have happened over the past couple of days, from being told by the Suna Council that she was to marry a Konoha Shonabai to solidify the Konoha-Suna alliance to where she is now. She still wondered whom her betrothed was going to be. Whomever it is, Tamari thought, I hope my so-to-be betrothed isn't anything like my father, who wasn't really there for me and my brothers while growing up. I wonder if it could be, the likelihood of the Konoha Council betrothing a foreigner like me to him of all people is 1,000,000 to 1. Sighed, I better not set my hopes up too high. It's hard enough that I'm being forced to marry a total stranger for some political alliance. If anything, they might have me marry some boy who's the son of a clan leader in the village. Grimaced, my life would be over if I'm forced to marry some clan leader on the council who's probably an old fart and a pervert. Tamari snapped out of her train of thoughts and back to reality as she continued making her way to Konoha with her Jounin escort. Chapter 42, Reasons. 2 days later, Tamari let out a sigh as she and her Jounin escort, who were carrying her luggage, drew closer to the gates of Konoha. Tamari was standing in front of 2 tower wooden doors that led the way into Konoha. Are you nervous, Tamari-san? Asked one of her Jounin escorts. Tamari let out another sigh. Yeah, I mean come on, I'm about to meet my suitor, my future husband. I'm sure the Hokage's choice in your suitor will be adequate, the Suna Jounin assured. Taking a breath, she and her escort stepped into the gate but were stopped by the 2 Jounin guarding the entrance. Halt, said Kotetsu, state your business here. One of the Suna Jounins pulled out an official scroll that had the seal of the Suna Council on it and showed it to Kotetsu and Izumo. We're here on important diplomatic business with the Hokage and the council of this village, the Suna Jounin said. It's essential that we be allowed to proceed to meet with your Hokage as soon as possible. Izumo and Kotetsu checked the seal and saw that it was authentic, though they took note of the luggage the Suna Jounins were carrying. Not delaying them any further, Izumo shunshined with a swirl of leaves to the Hokage tower with the scroll to report it to the Hokage. Minutes later, Izumo returned with Shizun. I'm happy to see you again, Tamari-san, Shizun greeted. Shizun turned to the Jounins guarding to entrance. I'll escort them to the tower. Kotetsu and Izumo nodded as Shizun gestured to Tamari and the 3 Suna Jounins with her to follow her to their next destination. Tamari gave another sigh and entered the village with her escort. Konoha was really a beautiful village, she admitted, but she found it hard to enjoy when she couldn't stop thinking about whom her future husband was going to be. What if he's a total jerk? What if he's anything like my father, or worse, an older man and a pervert, thought Tamari. Shizun saw the look into Mary's face, though she stayed quiet as she led them towards the Hokage Tower. Meanwhile at the Sarutobi compound, Sarutobi Hiruzen was in his study room in his estate reviewing a few scrolls. Taking a breath, he placed the scroll down and took a puff from his pipe. While sitting at his desk, he turned to look at the pictures in front of him. One in particular was the one showing himself, Minato, Kushina, Jiraiya, Tsunade and even Orochimaru in it. This was during their younger days while Minato was still under Jiraiya's tutelage and before Orochimaru turned traitor. They all looked happy in that picture despite the war with Omegakuer and Uegakuer. The aged Hokage looked at Minato and Kushina in particular. He knew from Jiraiya that Namikaze Minato always had a major crush on that tomboyish girl, Uzumaki Kushina. Even as a young teen her red hair was long. He wasn't surprised when Minato and Kushina married years later. When she got pregnant, like many of the others, he was looking forward to the birth of their child. But all that was ruined when the Kyuubi attacked Konoha. He sadly recalled the severe price Minato paid in order to save the village, the life of his wife and everything he had going for him, and turning his own son into a Jinhiriki. Hiruzen sighed again as he recalled sending an Umbu search party to locate and retrieve Tsunade for the purpose of asking her to adopt and raise Naruto as her own child after she left the village a few years earlier. He had to admit that he himself underestimated how strongly attached Tsunade became to Naruto over the course of years. Hell, her strong attachment blossomed the very moment she cradled Naruto into her arms when she appeared in his former office. He recalled the night baby Naruto was kidnapped by a renegade Umbu and how Tsunade went all out in searching for Naruto while barefooted and only in her sleeping kimono, and what she did to the culprit after he was found. Sarutobi, Kakashi, and the rest of the Umbu found Tsunade sitting and cradling Naruto in her arms with motherly affections while singing to him under a tree despite her horrid condition. A kunoichi will do what she must to defeat her enemies and defend her village, Hiruzen thought, but when you threaten her children, then you'll invoke a wrath even a cage would cringe at. Sarutobi recalled how stupefied he was when he saw Tsunade breastfeeding Naruto for the first time through his crystal ball. Just remembering that occasion made the aged Hokage blush with a small giggle that escaped his mouth. But he also remembered the look in her eyes and face as she watched Naruto feeding from her breast back then. It was an expression he had seen in a few before from Tsunade's face, an expression of motherly affection and tender care, showing that she'd do anything to protect the child she claimed as her precious own, even if it meant her life. Hiruzen then recalled the time when Naruto nearly died after Kyuubi's awakening. Tsunade nearly had a nervous breakdown as she placed all of her efforts in reviving him, putting aside her fear of blood for his sake. Then there was the occasion when Itaki and Kisame came to retrieve Naruto to bring him to the Akatsuki. Tsunade immediately dropped everything she was doing at the Hokage Tower and ran right out of the office to find Naruto with himself, Jiraiya, Shizun and the Black Ops Umbu following close by. Sarutobi recalled the potent bloodlust Tsunade poured out as Naruto retold what Itaka did to him. She'd have pursued the two Akatsuki nins to beat them to death had Naruto not calmed her anger. He then recalled how completely obliterated Tsunade was when Naruto was forced to resort to using the Fukafujin to seal away Shadame, Nidame, Noeke, and Dan at the cost of his life. The traumatic experience nearly landed Tsunade in the mental ward of Konoha Hospital had Naruto not used his Sozo Saigen to revive himself. Over the years, Sarutobi saw how the people of Konoha and many from other foreign villages and nations, Orochimaru included, became so deeply ingrained with the belief that Tsunade is Naruto's birth mother, and Tsunade herself started looking at herself as Naruto's actual mother instead of his adoptive mother. Also, Naruto wholeheartedly accepted Tsunade's family and late ancestors as his own, even after he and a few others learned or already knew the truth. Hiruzen often wondered why he as the then presiding Hokage during Tsunade's temporary leave of duty never revealed to the villages the entire truth about Naruto's backgrounds. However, the aged Hokage knew why. After recalling these and other events and memories of Tsunade and Naruto together on the day he was to announce Naruto's inauguration as the Namikaze clan leader, Sarutobi couldn't find it in himself to reveal to everyone that Naruto was Tsunade's adopted son, in spite of the very few who knew the truth, yet respected Tsunade a great deal as the mother who raised and loved Naruto as her very own child and sole heir. When asked about Naruto's middle name Uzumaki, many figured that he was given that name in loving memory of Uzumaki Kushina. In that way the Uzumaki name and legacy would live with Naruto. The irony was truly remarkable. Hiruzen didn't know whether or not the village as a whole would have been able to handle the truth about Naruto's birth and the events that took place with regards to the sealing jutsu Minato used and why Naruto's birth parents died on the night of Kyubai's attack. Taking the picture into his hand, Sarutobi looked at Minato and Kushina. Minato, Kushina, Hiruzen sighed with feelings of regrets, please forgive this old fool of a man. He placed the picture back down on his desk and turned to another picture showing Naruto, Konohamaru, Udon, and Mogi. That picture was taken on the day Naruto was inaugurated and announced as the new Namikaze clan leader. Sarutobi found it funny how his grandson brags about Naruto almost all the time yet looks at him as his rival and the one he someday hopes to surpass. He found it surprising in a few ways that Konohamaru, who also seeks to become Hokage, admires and believes in Naruto to the point that he sees him, his self-proclaimed rival, as the coming Rokudaime. But then again, Konohamaru looked up to Naruto as his greatest role model for quite some time and still does. Children are funny these days, Hiruzen said to himself before he looked at the scrolls there were still on his desk. He was about to go back into reading them when a knock came at the door. Yes, Hiruzen said, you can come in. The door opened to reveal a young servant girl with a sealed scroll in her hand. Hiruzen-sama, greeted one of the servants who entered the room, this came in for you. The servant girl went over to the aged former Hokage and handed him the scroll. After thanking and dismissing her from his study room, Sarutobi formed a hand seal and unsealed the scroll and opened it to read the contents inside it. Looks like I'm needed, Hiruzen said with a calm expression as she stood up from his seat. Grabbing his red and white robes, he placed them on before placing his traditional Hokage hat on his almost bald head. After taking a puff from his pipe, Sarutobi exited the study room and started on his way to the Hokage tower. Elsewhere, Ino was in her room lying down on her bed contemplating on everything that happened yesterday. Flashback. Ino was in the flower shop with her mother, helping out wherever she could. She was busy watering the plants when she heard the sounds of chiming bells at the front door. She turned to see Hinata and Naruto entering her family shop. Hey you guys, Ino smiled, what brings you two here? We came to see and speak with you Ino-chan, Naruto said, but it's something that Hina-chan and I wish to speak with you in private and not in front of everyone here. Do you have a moment? Ino nodded as she untied her apron and set it down on a nearby chair. She was about to lead them to the back when. This is faster, Naruto said as he grabbed Ino and Hinata's hands and shunshin to an open field away from the shop. The girls found themselves on top of the Hokage monument, particularly, on Yondaime's head. The Hokage monument, Ino asked. Naruto answered, that's right. I thought it'd be a fitting place to discuss what Hina-chan and I must explain to you. At that Hinata and Naruto went into detail to explain everything that took place within the last few days from the council meeting involving the alliance to the Hyuga clan meeting the other day. It was a while before they were done and when they were Ino didn't know what to say. After several moments of processing the information, Ino replied, you mean to tell me that Hina-chan has been engaged to you and you said nothing to me about this? I said nothing to Hina-chan about this either back then, Naruto sighed, and like I told her, the reasons why I didn't say anything were because I wasn't sure I wanted to go through with the whole arranged marriage deal and with what the Clan Restoration Act entailed. Plus, back then I wasn't sure of my feelings for her, Anko-chan and you Ino-chan. What do you mean you weren't sure of your feelings? Ino retorted while feeling hurt, weren't Hina-chan and I there for you through all these years? Well she's taking this pretty well, Naruto thought sarcastically to himself. Well, weren't we? Ino said with a feeling of hurt still in her voice. Yes you both were, Naruto said, unlike most girls in this village, you two are my closest friends and have known me for the longest time. And unlike most girls in this village, I've shared with you both some of my most personal and darkest secrets. In spite of everything that's happened to me, in spite of the fact that I carry this burden of being the Jinhiriki of Kyuubi no Kitsune, neither you nor Hina-chan looked at me differently. And why should we look at you differently? Ino replied, you're our best friend and not some arrogant jerk who thinks he's better than everyone else. Hina-chan and I cried for you when we were told that you were forced by your own father to be a living prison to the Kyuubi. We saw that what you're forced to live with is something neither of us or anyone else in this village could ever come to understand. We came to understand that you truly are a hero Naruto-kun, for keeping that monster from destroying us. Though very few in this whole village know the truth about this, Hinata said, it doesn't change the way we see you, Naruto-kun. I'm sure you've always known that. There was a brief moment of silence among them. Neither one of them said a word to the other as they gave themselves time to think. After a few minutes, Naruto said, you both grew to love and appreciate me even more for being the one who jails and denies Kyuubi his freedom. Neither you nor Hina-chan grew affectionate for me for superficial reasons. You both grew fond of me genuinely, which was something I truly wanted. To put it short, I grew to love you and Hina-chan much more than as friends. Ino thought her heart skipped a beat at the moment. She couldn't believe that Naruto, the renowned son of Yondaime and Godame, just openly admitted to her that he loves her and Hinata. Do you really mean that, Naruto-kun? Ino asked, hoping that she wasn't dreaming of this. Naruto assured, yes Ino-chan, I do. I'll understand if you're angry at me for everything else that's happened up to now in regards to Hina-chan and Temari being betrothed to me, and my current situation with Anko-chan. I won't hold it against you, I know I deserve that much. There was a brief moment of silence among them. Neither one said a word to the other while contemplating on everything that's been said thus far. Moments later, Ino broke the silence, Naruto-kun, I'll forgive you on one condition. Yes, Naruto asked. Ino looked at him and smiled, you come and ask my parents for their blessings in asking for me to be one of your betrotheds and allow me to move in with you. This partly caught Naruto and Hinata by surprise. After all, Ino continued, Hina-chan and I've been very good friends for a long time as well, and like with you, we confided in each other also about things that's been going on in our lives. I'm sure Hina-chan told you that several times. We even talked about the both of us marrying and sharing you, right? Hinata's face turned dark red upon remembering those occasions. Naruto was just happy that Jiraiya wasn't around for this conversation. The funny thing was that Naruto unconsciously looked around just to make sure. Turning back to Ino, Naruto asked, you really mean that? Naruto-kun, Ino said, I already knew about the Clan Restoration Act from my father. He told me all about it over a year ago, which was why I would talk with Hina-chan about the idea of the both of us marrying you and becoming part of your clan. I was just upset that you knew she was betrothed to you and you didn't say anything about it to us. I'm sorry, Naruto apologized, but one of the reasons why I said nothing back then was because your father didn't go through the notion of betrothing you to me. My belief is that he wanted us to develop a relationship with each other without him trying to maneuver so many things in your life, in contrast with Hina-chan's father. But regardless of whether or not both of your fathers would have betrothed you both to me, it wouldn't have changed the truth that I have feelings for the both of you and that you both would have been my first two I'd have chosen as future brides out of all the young girls in Konoha. Ino smiled on hearing that. Hearing Naruto say that helped to wipe out whatever doubts she might have had about him. Is there a way you can convince me of that, Naruto-kun? Ino asked. Naruto looked at Ino momentarily before stepping over to her. Before a word was said, Naruto embraced and kissed her. Ino's eyes widened at Naruto's actions as she felt the world spin around her. A moment later, Naruto pulled his lips away from Ino's to find that her face was a shade of red that could rival Hinata's blush. I'm convinced, Ino stuttered while in her still blissful state. End flashback. It was a few hours after that private discussion Naruto and Hinata had with Ino did Naruto come by the Yamanaka residence. He greeted her parents respectfully and explained his reasons for coming by. When Naruto told them that he wanted their blessings in having Ino as his betrothed and living in his estate, it went without say that both Yamanakas were most ecstatic. The idea that their future grandchildren would be not only from their descent from also from the son of Yondaime was something they always wanted. Ino's mother wanted to go and call all of her friends to tell them about it, but Inoichi had to make an effort to convince not to do so. Ino was snapped back to reality when a knock came at her front door. The door is opened, Ino replied before the door swung open to revealing Hinata. Ino-chan, Hinata greeted, are you busy? No, not really, Ino said before sitting up on her bed, I finished unpacking and putting away all of my things a bit of a while ago. What's up? I was just wondering if you're okay, Hinata said. Ino smiled, you mean with the fact that we both are now roommates living in Naruto's mansion? And that Temari is going to be living here also with us? Hinata admitted, this will take some getting used to, especially since I'm no longer an heiress to the Hyuga clan. Hina-chan, Ino asked, "Does that make you in any way upset? I know that you always wanted to unite the main and branch houses and end the division in your clan. But seeing that you are no longer living at the Hyuga compound, well, does that mean that your goals have changed?" Hinata finished for her. "It's true that I'm no longer the heir of the Hyuga clan and that my younger sister has succeeded me in that. However, my goals have not changed one bit. I'll still find a way to unite the Hyuga and end the division in my family. And I never go back on my word. It's my Nindo." Ino smiled at the girl. "I'm happy to hear that. I will admit that even now I find it hard to believe that we're actually living here with Naruto-kun, though it hasn't yet been announced publicly. I can only imagine how everyone will react when they hear about this," Hinata said. "I hope this doesn't tarnish their views on both us and Naruto-kun." "Forget about that," Ino retorted. "If they don't like it, that's their problem. I'm sure if any other girl was given an option they'd have jumped at the opportunity to be in our shoes simply because of the fact that Naruto is the son of two Hokages, in particular, Yondaime." Hinata nodded in agreement. "Besides, we made a promise to Naruto-kun some time ago that we'll always be there with and for him, no matter the danger or problem. And we never go back on our word, isn't that right?" Ino smiled. Hinata nodded again. Meanwhile at the Hokage Tower, Temari and her escort arrived at the tower on schedule. They were in the waiting room waiting to be announced to have an audience with the Hokage. The Wind Mistress felt awkward. It was truth that she's been on many missions before, a number of them dangerous ones. She's faced a number of challenges in her life and none could prepare her for this challenge, she realized. While waiting in the room, she felt her heart beating with every passing second while wondering who her betrothed was going to be. Temari found it strange that she was this nervous, though her village council said that this was her mission. Some mission, Temari thought to herself, being used as a bargaining chip for a treaty alliance to be formed by two nations. "I hope I'm not being set up with some old man on the council with missing teeth and a perverted interest in younger girls." Temari shuddered unconsciously from the thought of it, but she saw that for the sake of her village she had to go through with it, whether she wanted to or not. It was her mission, and on the night before she left, the council told her that this was regarded as a high-priority S-rank mission, therefore failure to complete it was not an option. She sighed to herself while wondering when she was going to get the whole thing over with. 10 minutes later, Shizun stepped into the room and greeted, "Hello everyone. I'm sorry to have kept you all waiting. Tsunade-sama and Hiruzen-sama will see you for now." Taking a deep breath, Temari rose to her feet and followed Shizun to the meeting chamber where Tsunade, Sarutobi and the others were waiting. A few minutes later, Temari and her escort entered the designated chamber to find Tsunade and Sarutobi and the rest of the village council sitting at their designated seating. All but Naruto and Homura were there and Jiraiya was standing beside Tsunade along with Shizun, while Sarutobi sat at Tsunade's left side since she was reinstated as the presiding Hokage, much to Sarutobi's relief, in spite of the fact that he still wore the red and white robes and Hokage hat. "Temari-san," Tsunade greeted, "I trust your journey back to Konoha wasn't too troubling for you." "No go Dame-sama," Temari said as she bowed in respects to both Tsunade and Sarutobi. "Please take a seat," Sarutobi offered as she gestured to the round seating futon on the floor in the center of the chamber. Temari nodded as she went over and sat on the futon while her escort went and stood at the side by the wall. The Suna Wind Mistress felt all eyes on her now, and this only served to add more to her nervousness. "Sabaku no Temari," Tsunade started, "we of the Council of Konohagakuer no Sato are very happy to have you here with us today. We appreciate your willingness in leaving your village and journeying all the way here to finalize the treaty alliance between our two nations. The arranged marriage with whom you're betrothed to is of the utmost importance to both Suna and Konoha. We assume the Council of Sunagakuer has explained this to you, yes?" "Hi, Go Dame-sama," Temari said, "I was well informed that this is to be my final mission as a Chiryunin of my former village. It was explained to me that this was a high-priority S-rank mission. I'll do everything in my power to live up to this council's expectations." Tsunade nodded, though she, Shizun, Sarutobi, and Jiraiya inwardly frowned when the idea of Temari marrying Naruto was labeled as a mission. "Temari," Tsunade said, "this arranged mission is not a mission regardless of what the Suna Council may have told you about the alliance. Your suitor is a strong and most accomplished ninja and respected clan leader who is part of this council. In fact, your former village especially asked for you to be betrothed to this particular clan leader. Tamari's heart dropped on hearing that her suitor was a clan leader. She knew that all of the men in the chamber were old enough to be her father, if not her grandfather. Though she facially tried not to show it, Tamari wanted to scream in indignation, and the fact that the Suna Council made this request only made things worse, and she had no choice but to go through with it. I understand, Tamari said with a voice expression no emotions. Tsunade and Sarutobi wondered if the Suna Council told Tamari whom her betrothed was, and if not, why didn't they? The two Hokages wondered. Is there more I should know about my suitor? Tamari asked, almost fearing what she might hear next. Tsunade was about to say something when Sarutobi suggested for him to say something. Tsunade nodded and gave Hiruzen the opportunity to speak. Yes, young lady. The clan leader whom you're being betrothed to happens to be one of our very best men of our village, and we strongly believe that he's the best suitor for you, being the daughter of the late Yondaime Hokage. Also, the daughters of Hyuga Hayashi and Yamanaka Inukai, both of whom are clan leaders, have also been betrothed to him as well. Great, Tamari thought dreadfully while wondering which one of the older men in the chamber was the one Hiruzen was referring to, just as I thought. The old clan leader is a pervert. He's already taken younger girls as his future brides, and I'm one of them. Hiruzen saw the expression on Tamari's face as she tried to look as respectful as possible. Sarutobi wanted to come right out and say whom her betrothed was, but he decided to stretch this out further to see whether or not Tamari would willingly go through with it. He figured that maybe that's why the Suna Council chose not to reveal to Tamari whom her suitor was going to be. Plus, Hiruzen continued, the reasons for his rights to marry more than one female are reasons I'm sure your suitor himself will be willing to explain himself after you meet him. Hiruzen knew that if he revealed that the clan leader was the last of his clan, it would lead to Tamari narrowing it down to Naruto. Though Sasuke might have came up, however, he was never inaugurated or announced as a clan leader, since neither the Hokages or council found Sasuke worthy or mature enough to assume that role. All eyes were on Tamari now as she stayed quiet momentarily. Closing her eyes, Tamari had to remind herself of several important factors. Several moments later. Is there something you wish to say? Tsunade asked. After a moment, Tamari opened her eyes and replied, yes. You may speak freely, Tsunade offered. Taking a breath and gathering her words together, Tamari looked at Hiruzen and Yondaime and said, as a Chiryunin of Tsunagakuer, I was sent here to solidify the alliance between our nations, regarding it as a high-priority S-rank mission. As a Kunoichi, I alone was entrusted with this as the final mission given to me by the Council of Suna, and failure to fulfill what my village council entrusted with me would go against the will of the Council of Suna that wants this alliance to happen. Sarutobi, Tsunade, and everyone else in the chamber stayed quieted as they listened to what Tamari had to say. After a brief pause. However, Tamari continued, I, as Sabuku no Tamari, the daughter of Yondaime Hokage, came here of my choosing to help my family and people. Tsunagakuer is in a most weakened state since our daimyo's refusal to help us and Orochimaru's deception. Enemy forces could at any time attack and plunder my home village. I don't want that to happen, and I know that there's no one in my village who are at the levels of the either Yondaime-sama, Hiruzen-sama, Jiraiya-sama or Naruto-kun himself who could defend against enemy villages. My family, my village, my people, are in great need of this alliance. They placed all of their trust and reliance on me to see this whole thing through, and I can't fail them. They're all counting on me. I chose to sacrifice and put aside my own interests and goals for the greater need of my people. Plus, I'm forever indebted to Naruto-kun for what he's done for my brother Gaara, and words can't describe how grateful I am to him. I accept whomever this council chooses as my betrothed, and I'm sure that I can grow to love whom this council finds me worthy to marry, even though I'll have to share him with his other female betrotheds of this village. Tamari again paused as she took the time to control her emotions. Everyone in the chamber saw her sincerity in her words and found no signs of deception in her voice. How does Naruto do it? Sarutobi wondered with a smile on his face. He even got children of another Kage from a foreign nation to develop self-sacrificing spirits for the sake of those they regard as precious people. This girl doesn't even know whom her betrothed is, yet despite what the council have told her, she's doing this not for the desire of the council but for the sake of her people. Tsunade thought carefully, Naru-chan, you've made quite an impression on many whom you came across in your life. Tamari took a deep breath and asked as she bowed her head, When will I meet my suitor? Shortly, Hiruzen said as Tsunade signaled to one of the Umbu to go over to the door and retrieve Tamari's suitor. Opening the door, Homura stepped into the chamber stood at the entrance as everyone turned their attention to him. Tamari saw the aged man and sighed to herself. Before Homura was able to say a word, "Honorable clan leader," Tamari greeted him as she bowed her head to him, causing Homura and everyone in the chamber to blink in bafflement at that moment as she continued, "I am Sabaku no Tamari, daughter of the late Yondaime Hokage and the one whom has been betrothed to you." It took all of the self-control of almost everyone present in the chamber not to burst out laughing at the scene that played out. Hayashi remained reserved though he and Shivi had raised eyebrows when they heard and saw Tamari's actions. Shikaku mumbled troublesome under his breath when he saw Inoichi and Choza snickering quietly. "Is that girl for real?" Inuyasukitsune thought to herself with a disbelieving expression. "How could she possibly think we were going to marry her off to that old bat?" Koharu shook her head, finding it hard to believe that Tamari assumed that her betrothed was a man old enough to be her grandfather. Homura looked at Tamari with a baffled expression and remarked, "I'm Homura and I'm flattered, young lady, but I can assure you that though I'm an important figure and part of this council as a village elder, however, I'm neither a clan leader nor your betrothed." Tamari blushed heavily in embarrassment, though she inwardly sighed in great relief. "My apologies, Homura-sama," Tamari said as she bowed her head to the older man. Jiraiya, Sarutobi, and a few others in the chamber snickered at the scene though Homura shot them an annoyed look that showed that he wasn't humored by it. Hell, even the Suna Jounins chuckled at the scene. Tsunoda knew that if it had been Jiraiya in Homura's place, he'd have had a field day teasing Tamari until he was punched and told to tell the truth. Homura stepped to the side as he gestured to the opened door. "Sabaku no Tamari, we of the Council of Konohagakure no Sato present to you, your suitor." No sooner when he said that, Naruto, fully dressed in his Jounin uniform and gear and custom white trench coat, stepped in and entered the chamber. "Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto," Homura presented, "son of Godame and our late Yondaime Hokage, and the newly inaugurated Namikaze clan leader of this village and council." Tamari was dumbfounded when she saw that her betrothed was none other than Naruto himself. She wanted to say something, but the right words weren't forming right. "Sabaku no Tamari," Naruto greeted with a smile on his face as he bowed to her, "It's a pleasure to meet you again. I'm honored to be betrothed to the daughter of Yondaime Hokage." The Wind Mistress couldn't believe her luck. Here it is that she's being betrothed to the very ninja praised as the second coming of Yondaime Hokage, only stronger, the one who single-handedly defeated and changed Gaara, the very person who came out victorious against impossible odds during the course of his life and shinobi career. She wasn't being married off to some old prune as she feared. Tamari couldn't help but smile brightly and blush on seeing Naruto again. "No, Naruto-kun, the honor is all mine." She stood up from her seating futon and walked over to the blonde. Standing in front of him, Tamari bowed to him. "I forgot he's taller than me," Tamari thought as she rose back up and faced Naruto with the same smile never leaving her face. "I know we have much to discuss, Tima-chan," Naruto said before she nodded to him as she blushed at the nickname he gave her already. Later in Konoha, Sasuke was walking around the village with Sakura and Sai following. They were heading to meet up with Kakashi at the ramen stand, but they figured that he'd be late as usual. The young Uchiha though was still sore about the 3-day D-rank mission he was forced to do by himself at Naruto's estate. And since the pay for D-rank missions is rather low, having it reduced down to less than what the missions are worth was like receiving pocket change. "I'll find a way to become stronger than you, Naruto," Sasuke contemplated, "then I'll use that power to overthrow you and kill my brother." While they were making their way to their destination, Sakura said, "Hey, did you guys see Tamari and those 3 Suna Jounins with her earlier today?" Sasuke, without turning to face Sakura, replied, "I did in fact. Though I don't know why she's here with 3 of her village Jounins with her. However, I did see them being escorted by Shizune to the Hokage Tower earlier, with some luggage in fact. Plus, I noticed that Tamari was wearing a Suna Chiryunin vest. So her village promoted her to Chiryunin," Sakura said. "It's almost surprising in my opinion. I doubt Tamari and those Jounins with her are here for a vacation. Something's up, I know it." "Surprising," Sai remarked with a fake smile on his pale face, "you figured that out all by yourself, Sakura-san." Sakura smacked Sai hard across his head as she huffed and turned to Sasuke again, What do you suppose they're here for? It's anyone's guess at this moment, Sasuke replied. I doubt they'll be here too long. Since they were carrying luggage scrolls, I'm assuming a couple of days at most. They're probably here on some kind of diplomatic business with the Hokage. After another 10 minutes, the trio arrived at their destination to find that Kakashi wasn't there yet. Rather, they found Ryota and Haku sitting at the ramen stand with Kano Amaru, Mogi, and Udon sitting down at the stand with them. From the look of it, Kano Amaru and his friends seemed to be talking with the two older girls about something. Going over to the group, the trio stood behind when the two girls and the three youths noticed their presence. Have you guys seen Kakashi? Sasuke asked. We were supposed to meet up with him. Haku said, No, we haven't seen him all day. Typical, Sakura retorted, that's old reliable Kakashi-sensei for you. What are you five doing here? Sai inquired. The kids were telling us about how they look forward to learning some interesting things from Naruto-kun, Haku said. Sasuke inwardly snarled at the fact that Naruto chose 3 children who aren't even genins to be his apprentices, and one of them just so happens to be the grandson of Sarutobi Hiruzen. For the next 2 hours, Team 7 waited for Kakashi while talking with Haku, Ryota, and the 3 youths with them. While they were there, Ryota related to the group how she gave Naruto quite a thrashing when they were once enemies. Sakura, Kano Amaru, and his 2 friends pretty much laughed their asses off when they heard from Ryota how she used a jutsu to manipulate Naruto's body movements and forced him to pummel himself before she forced him into tearing his own clothes off. Sasuke was smirking to himself while hearing of Naruto's humiliation at the hands of a female. He almost wished he was there to see that event play out. Sai though saw that there was more to the story than she was letting on. I take it that from all this that the battle did not end in your favor, Sai said straightforwardly with a fake smile on his face, which leads me to wonder why you hang around Naruto-kun so much. There was an awkward silence amongst the group as everyone turned their attention on Ryota. Ryota, though, didn't want to relate how Naruto crushed and humiliated her when he beat her to within a near inch of her life before restoring her and placing a choker seal around her neck. What added to her humiliating defeat was the fact that in the end, she begged Naruto to put her to death and he refused before giving her the option to do with her life as she saw fit. Though she was an A-class Jounin whereas he was a special Genin during that time, however, ranks meant nothing after her repeated defeat was made clear. You're stone cold silent all the sudden, Ryota-san, Sai said. Why else? Kano Amaru grinned. She doesn't want to tell us how Naruto Nyakin kicked her butt in the end. Ryota was about to say something when I once read in a zoology book how females of various species are often attracted to the stronger and dominant males of their species, predominantly for the objective in finding suitable mates to reproduce with, Sai said with the same fake smile on his face. My belief is that Ryota-san's reasons for being around Naruto-kun so often is related to what I read from that book. No one saw how swiftly Ryota moved off her seat before punching Sai in the face, effectively knocking him off his feet. When that was done, Ryota turned and stomped off from the group with a down Sai with them. Seeing how bad Sai got punched, Kano Amaru remarked, she must want Naruto Nyakin really bad since she hit Sai-san that hard to shut him up. Denial always shows an ugly face when told the truth. Everyone at the moment saw Ryota stop walking away, realizing that she was still in hearing range. This was confirmed when they felt a portion of bloodlust radiating from the earth-type Kunoichi. Kano Amaru-kun, Udon muttered. The boy didn't have time to say much when the Jounin turned and chased after his friend. Kano Amaru screamed as he found himself running from Ryota while Udon, Mogi, and Haku ran after Ryota to calm her down. Team 7 found that they were now alone at the ramen stand. Sai had already got back up off the ground when he saw Kano Amaru running from Ryota with Haku, Mogi, and Udon following close by. Females truly are complicated creatures, Sai remarked, and I don't think there'll be enough books to archive all the findings about them. Sai found himself on the ground again, this time with another bruise to his face in courtesy of Sakura. Jerk, Sakura yelled indignantly with her right fist still clenched tightly. Sasuke huffed in disinterest. Before another word was said, Kakashi shushed and appeared in front of the group. Yo, Kakashi greeted. Sakura frowned, you're late. Sorry, Kakashi said with a smile under his mask, you see, I was on my way here when a black cat crossed my path. So I had to use another route to get here. Liar, Sakura yelled, I don't believe you spent more than 2 hours trying to get around a black cat. Kakashi shrugged as he looked at the group in front of him, before noticing Sai getting back off the ground with noticeable bruises on his face. What happened to you, Sai? Kakashi asked. Sai replied, a victim of my own findings. Sakura was about to go up and punch him again when Kakashi grabbed and restrained her. That's quite enough, Sakura, Kakashi said calmly. Sakura frowned at both Kakashi and Sai before calming herself down. Seeing that she calmed down, Kakashi released her. Well, since you're all here, Kakashi said, we can now head over to the Hokage Tower to start our next mission. Sasuke, Sakura, and Sai nodded to Kakashi as they headed over to the Hokage Tower. Kakashi said nothing as to what the mission was, but he knew that the three of them were in for a surprise. Chapter 43, Works of Art. Earlier outside Konoha walls. A lone figure was walking through the forest in the shadows. This figure in particular was approaching Konoha with an objective in mind. After receiving information from a reliable source several days ago, the figure decided to take an unscheduled trip to Konoha and pay it a visit, though the actual intention was to pay a certain person a visit. If anything, the figure saw that this trip might turn out fun. With that in mind, a sinister smile formed on the figure's face while continuing to Konoha. Later, at the Hokage Tower. Tsunade was back in her office doing the bane of all cages. No matter how powerful a cage of any village was, it was the very curse that he or she could never completely obliterate, paperwork. She got through signing and stamping all of the documents registering to Mary as an official Konoha citizen and Chiryunin. Moments later there was a knock at her door. Yes, Tsunade answered. The door opened to reveal a group of jounins entering her office. They bowed to her before standing upright in front of her desk. The jounins were holding sealed scrolls bearing written statements with the official insignia of Konoha and Sarutobi's signature. They were also holding sealed envelopes possessing official insignias from other hidden villages. We've retrieved the bounties offered for Orochimaru's demise, said the leading jounin. It goes without say that he was a most hated man. Tsunade knew that truth all too well, but she couldn't complain too much about it. 2 weeks ago Sandaime had dispatched several jounins to head out to hidden villages offering bounties on Orochimaru's head and retrieve the bounties. The bounties on the traitorous Sunin's head were high, especially since he was an S-class criminal. Snapping back to reality, Tsunade said, excellent work. Place the envelopes and scrolls on my desk and receive your pay. The jounins did as instructed and before long they were all paid for their missions and dismissed from the office. The amount of money Naruto was getting because of all of those bounties was enough for him to have an early retirement if he so wanted to pursue that. Tsunade though thought up a whole lot of things she could do with that amount of money, most of which involved expensive sake and gambling. Looking down at her desk, she saw another scroll and that was on her desk. It was for another mission. A moment later, the door opened again to reveal Kakashi and his team. Speak of the devil, Tsunade said in an undertone as the jounin and his team entered her office, I have a mission I want you all to complete. Tsunade handed Kakashi the scroll containing the information about the mission. Kakashi opened the scroll and looked it over. The blonde Hokage noticed the bruises on Sai's face. What happened to you, young man? Tsunade inquired. Sai calmly replied, I was struck down twice because both Ryota-san and Sakura-san didn't take too kindly to my form of logic. Your form of logic was insulting, Sakura retorted. Insulting to those who refuse to see it as it is, Sai remarked without any form of hesitation. Sakura moved to punch Sai again, only for her fist to be caught by Kakashi while Sai stood his grounds without budging an inch. Sakura, Kakashi said, you react too irrationally to people's comments. That type of demeanor will get you killed if you don't learn to control your temper. Sakura huffed before being released by her jounin sensei. She snorted with a low growl at Sai who flashed her one of his fake smiles. Sasuke remained calm and collective, not allowing Sai and Sakura's behavior to get to him. It'll be done, Kakashi said as he bowed his head to Tsunade before turning to his team, let's go. We'll leave for our next mission soon. I'll be sure to stop by the hospital to see a medic nin to heal me before our mission starts, Sai said. Kakashi simply shrugged as he and his 3 genins exited the office, leaving Tsunade with her thoughts. Ever since Orochimaru's death by her son's hands, Konoha have been getting many clients from other hidden villages and the number of missions given to them skyrocketed. The increased funding Konoha was getting from their daimyo after learning about Orochimaru's demise and Konoha's victory against the invasion was all the more reason why the council favored Naruto so heavily. In fact, many of the clients had requested Naruto in particular for missions. Tsunade knew that Naruto's high S-class reputation in the bingo books would earn him a lot of attention, much of which she didn't want for her son seeing he already has a lot to worry about. Wanting to get her mind off of things temporarily and before Shizune appeared, Tsunade opened her drawer and attempted to grab her hidden bottle of Seikuen. "We're here for our mission," Guy said as he and his team entered her office. The slug princess cursed under her breath as she closed the drawer of her desk. "Yes," Tsunade said, returning to her professional demeanor as she picked up and handed Guy the scroll for the mission he and his team were to perform. Guy opened the scroll and read through it. When he was done, he flashed Tsunade a nice guy smile with a sparkle to his teeth and a thumbs up with a reply, "Yosh, we'll see the mission through. If we don't complete it on time, I'll run 400 laps around the village. And I too will run 400 laps around Konoha if we don't complete our mission promptly," Lee shouted enthusiastically. Tsunade, Tenten and Niji just sighed to themselves. "They'll never change," Tenten grieved mentally. Niji just said nothing as he exited the office with this team. When they were out, Tsunade opened the drawer and pulled out the bottle and small cup. Giggling happily, she licked her lips with anticipation as she poured some contents into the cup. She brought the cup to her awaiting lips and proceeded to sip the alcoholic beverage when Tsunade-sama, Shizune barged into the office, causing the slug Sunin to spew the drink from her mouth and onto her desk. "Damn it, Shizune." Meanwhile, Temari was waiting in the waiting room where all over her luggage were. Her Suna Jounin escort had departed from her and left for their return back to Suna after saying their goodbyes. While waiting in the room, she was wondering how her life in Konoha was going to be like, especially when word gets out about her betrothal to Naruto. Her train of thoughts though was derailed when the door to the room swung open, revealing Guy and his genin team with him. "Temari-san," Guy greeted, "how nice to see you again." Temari simply nodded to him. Guy then turned to his three genins and said, "Our mission is to escort Temari-san and bring her belongings to her new home." "Her new home?" Tenten inquired. Guy smiled toothily, "Temari-san is going to be living here in Konoha now." Both Lee and Tenten had raised eyebrows while Niji remained quiet. Niji wasn't at all surprised since he already knew about Temari's affairs from his uncle Hayashi. "What?" Lee yelled in disbelief, "but she's a Sunanin." "Not anymore," Temari smirked as she pointed to an authentic blue Konoha headband tied and hanging around her neck along with an official Konoha Chiryunin vest resting by her luggage along with her Suna Chiryunin vest and headband. Tenten looked at Temari and asked, "When did you become a Konoha-nin and Chiryunin?" "It became official as of today," Temari said. "Part of the reason why I was sent here by the Council of Suna was to become a Konoha-nin as part of the Konoha-Suna Alliance." "An alliance?" Tenten asked. Temari nodded. "Yes, the councils of both Konoha and Suna formed an alliance, and part of it entailed that I serve as a liaison for both villages as a Konoha Chiryunin." "Where will you be living at?" Tenten asked. "In the Namikaze estate," Temari answered. Now both Lee and Tenten had raised eyebrows while Niji had an intrigued expression. "You were sent to live in Naruto's estate?" Tenten asked. "Why didn't they give you your own house or something?" "You really ask a lot of questions," Temari retorted, "but can we please get on with escorting me to where he lives since I really don't know where his estate is at?" Tenten sensed that there was more to why Temari was going to be living at the Namikaze estate. Sure, she and many others already knew that Ryota lives at Naruto's estate since many refused to allow her to be their tenant since she's a former IWA nin. Tenten figured that perhaps with recent events involving the Suna Oto invasion that some in Konoha are sour towards the Suna nins. Whatever the reasons were, Tenten and the others knew that they were going to find out the truth sooner or later. "Come on Tenten," Lee said energetically, "let's get on with today's assignment and give Temari-san a warm welcome and become part of our village." "Yosh," Guy agreed, "let's show Temari-san our youthful flames." The group went over and grabbed Temari's luggage and started on their way to Naruto's estate. While on their way, Temari noticed Kakashi and his team heading in the opposite direction from them. She also caught sight of his new thick orange book, Ika Ika Paradise, the Paradisiacal Forest Ninja. Kakashi knew that his new novel was based on his kid brother Naruto, and the highly detailed sexual content he was reading caused him to blush and let a few perverted giggles escape his covered mouth here and there. Temari was rather annoyed by the sight before she turned her attention back to where she was going. After a good amount of walking, the group finally arrived at the Namikaze estate. They walked through the large opened doors leading into the estate and made their way towards Naruto's mansion. "This place is bigger than I thought," Tenten said out loud to no one in particular. Temari couldn't believe how beautiful and clean Naruto's estate was. She expected a lot of things but nothing like what she was looking at. "Naruto-kun lives here," Temari said with a surprised expression. Guy nodded. "Yes, all that you see belongs to Naruto-san. I hope you'll find your new life here enjoyable." Soon the group arrived at their destination and stood in front of a large mansion. "Here we are," Guy said as he went over and knocked on the door. A moment later, the door opened and revealed Naruto. "Guy-san," Naruto greeted. Guy grinned and nodded to him. "Hello to you, Naruto-san. We escorted Temari-san here safely without trouble." Naruto nodded in understanding. "Thank you. I'll show you guys where you can bring her things." "Wait a minute," Tenten interjected, "you mean to say that Temari is going to be living in your house?" "That's right," Naruto said straightforwardly. Lee had a surprised expression while Niji had a small expression of interest. Tenten though looked at Naruto indignantly, "But you have plenty of houses in your estate. So why not give her a house of her own?" Before Naruto could give a reply, "Tenten," Guy rebuked, "where Temari-san is allowed to lodge at is neither your concern nor decision. We were assigned to escort Temari-san safely here, not to antagonize the Namikaze clan leader for his decision as to where Temari-san can live. So please have more respect for Naruto-san, we are guests in his estate after all." After a moment of silence, "I'm sorry," Tenten apologized as she bowed her head, "I was out of line." "All is forgiven," Naruto smiled, "so don't worry about it. Please come inside." Naruto allowed them to come into his house as she guided them upstairs. As they entered, Niji looked around the place and saw that the decorations were indeed works of art. Tenten was amazed at how beautiful the place was. Lee was wondering if Naruto had an indoor dojo they could train and spar in sometime. Temari's eyes scanned and took in everything she was looking at. Naruto-kun must have deep pockets to afford all this, Temari thought to herself as she and the others made their way upstairs. A minute late, they arrived at the designated room and Naruto opened the door for them. "You can place her things inside this room," Naruto said, allowing the genins to enter the room and place her luggage down in her new room. They did as instructed and set her things down the room as Temari walked in and looked around her new room. She saw that Naruto did quite a work in preparing her room, though she admitted that it could still use a woman's touch. Living here will take some getting used to, Temari thought to herself. Naruto turned to Guy and his team, "Thank you for your service. I already took care of the payment of this mission, so you guys can go pick up your payment back at the Hokage Tower. We'll see you later, Naruto-san," Guy said as he and his team turned to leave the mansion. After Guy and his genin cell left the mansion, Naruto returned to Temari and found that she had already started unpacking and settling some of her belongings in the places she chose to place them. While standing by the doorway, he found her stopping for a moment to take out and look at a recently taken picture with her in her Suna Chiryunin vest, Gaara, Kankuro, and Baki. "I know it must be very hard for you to be separated from them," Naruto said, "they're your family after all." "Well," Temari said, "life for us wasn't all that luxurious. After the death of my mother, life for my family turned sour and very bitter. My father wasn't much of a father and most of the time I had to look after both Gaara and Kankuro. It was harder looking after Gaara than it was Kankuro because we were all terrified of him, us and practically everyone else. Our uncle seemed to have cared for Gaara, but when he betrayed and turned on Gaara after being given an assassination mission by our father, things took a turn for the worst. Gaara started killing everyone who crossed him as his twisted way to show love for himself and prove his existence to everyone." Naruto remained silent as he allowed Temari to get off her chest what she's been meaning to tell Naruto for some time. "Naruto-kun, during the first months my brothers and I first came to Konoha for the Chiryunin exams, you did something that no one else sought to do, you went out of your way to help Gaara who to you was a total stranger back then. At first I didn't know what your intentions were, but when you revealed to us that you yourself are a Jinhiriki, made into one by your own father, I saw that Gaara wanted to believe in your ability to help him. He saw that there was another person in the world who could understand life as a Jinhiriki, that he wasn't alone anymore. Kankuro wasn't trusting of you at all to say the least, but I so badly wanted to believe in you. I wanted to believe that you sincerely sought to help my little brother and, you did. Naruto-kun, you saved Gaara from forever damning himself, you freed him from his hatred and uncontrolled bloodlust. My family and people, we owe you our thanks and gratitude. So, thank you. Hee, it was nothing, Naruto smiled and rubbed the back of his head. Temari went over and gripped Naruto's hands with her own, causing Naruto to stop smiling as he looked into her eyes and saw tears. I sincerely mean it, Naruto-kun. You made Gaara feel human and alive in a completely new light. Temari started to shed the tears. You want to know something? Naruto nodded, uncertain of what she was going to say to him. During the days we were back in Suna after our time in Konoha, Gaara allowed me hug him. I was able to embrace him as his older sister and he hugged me back. Before then, I can't remember when the last time was when I was able to hug him at all. Temari smiled, as she was now crying freely, even though it was in an undertone. Naruto had a few experiences when it came to comforting females, female ninjas in particular. I'm happy that you're happy about all this, Naruto said as he embraced and held her. Temari stopped crying and smiled. That day we met you was the day you truly changed the life of my family. We used to be afraid of Gaara, and now we found that Gaara wanted to actually practice and train with Kankuro and Kankuro actually got him to laugh at one of his jokes. Laugh, not in the maniacal way he used to but laugh with a true sense of humor. Gaara even started making more of an effort to be around people more, though many are still wary of him because of his past deeds. Still, the very fact that he wants to become someone they could trust and rely on gradually started making some look at Gaara differently than they used to. Though it presently doesn't look like much, but the fact that it's happening is testimony to the changes you made in his life, Naruto-kun. Naruto stayed quiet as Temari continued to pour out her feelings and thoughts to him. Believe it or not, Naruto-kun, Temari continued, Gaara admires and looks up to you as his role model. He personally made that clear the day we came to visit you while you were in a coma in the hospital. He told all of us that his new way of proving his existence is to find precious people to protect and make him strong. We thought we were dreaming when he said that with such conviction and zeal, and since then Gaara has been living up to his promise, and before I left for Konoha, he told me that Kankuro, Baki-sensei and I are one of his precious people. Temari took the moment to wipe away the tears in his face and eyes. When that was done, she looked at Naruto face to face. Naruto-kun, please promise me that you'll never become how Gaara once was and that you'll stay as a role model for him to follow. Naruto saw the look in Temari's eyes. The look he saw was a girl who was not only truly sincere and solid in her words, but also wanted reassurance that her hopes will be met and satisfied. You have my word, Naruto assured with a toothy grin, and I never go back on my word, that's my nindo. Temari couldn't help but smile, and her already huge amount of respect for the Namikaze clan leader increased further. She just heard him declare his nindo, and that he would never go back on his promise. She couldn't help but smile even further. You truly are a wonderful guy, Naruto-kun. Thanks, Naruto said. Well, before you unpack the rest of your things, let me introduce you to Hina-chan and Ino-chan. Temari nodded and followed Naruto to where Hinata and Ino were. Meanwhile, at one of the training grounds outside the village, Kano Amaru found himself trapped between a tree and an angry-looking Kunoichi. Kano Amaru said fearfully, I was only fooling. Really? Ryota retorted while cracking her knuckles. Ryota-san, Haku said, hurting the grandson of Sandaime won't earn you the villagers' respect. I had no real intentions of seriously hurting him, Ryota said, just roughing him up a bit. Don't be such a bully to one of Naruto-kun's precious people, Haku asked, he won't be pleased with you if you do harm to Kano Amaru-san. Udon and Mogi looked on as Haku did what she could to calm the jounin down. A minute later though Mogi's eyes caught sight of something that flew past them. Curiosity got the better of her as she went over to investigate what it was that flew by them. When she arrived at the scene, she saw a small bird standing on top of a small pile of dirt. The bird started chirping a beautiful sound that the young orange-haired girl never heard before. Wow, Mogi said, what a beautiful looking bird. Udon went over to where Moeoi went. He adjusted his glasses to see what his orange-haired friend was looking at and admiring. That's odd, Udon noted. Mogi turned to him, what's odd? That particular kind of bird doesn't come to Konoha, Udon said, it's a bird you see in the tropics very far from here. So it's not from Hinokuni, Fire Country, Mogi asked. Udon shook his head, no, in fact it's not even from this continent. So what's it doing in Konoha? Mogi asked out loud with a confused expression. She moved closer to the chirping bird when. That's weird, Mogi said, that bird look awfully white and clay-like. Ryota turned to the two kids to see what they were looking at. When she caught sight of the bird however, her eyes widened with shock and fear after seeing the danger the kids were in. She hurriedly ran to the two youths and. Get down, Ryota yelled as she grabbed and ran with both youths. Katsu. The bird detonated with a large explosion, blowing the three of them off their feet, though Ryota took more of the brunt of the attack as a result of shielding Mogi and Udon with her own body. Ryota, though dazed, gradually got back up on her feet as Kano Amaru and Haku ran over to them. Mogi! Udon, Kano Amaru cried out as he ran over to his friends. Ryota-san, Haku called out as she and Kano Amaru reached the trio, are you guys alright? Shaking the dizziness out of her system, Ryota got serious as she turned and looked over Mogi and Udon, both of whom were alright with no serious injuries. Haku, Ryota said, get the three kids back to the village. What about you? Haku asked. I'll stay and deal with the attacker personally, Ryota replied. By yourself, Haku remarked, but you don't even know who our attacker is. Yes I do, Ryota replied with a hardened tone, all too well in fact. He's a very dangerous S-class ninja and we can't risk the children's safety by keeping them here. Besides, this ninja in particular killed someone who was very precious to me a long time ago. Haku understood that feeling and she acknowledged that whoever their attacker was, Ryota had a terrible history with him. Taking the children, Haku made her way back to the village. When they were out of sight, Ryota's attention turned to the attacker who was now standing in the shadows of the forest. It's been a long time little Ryota, yeah, said a masculine voice. Ryota fought hard to control her bloodlust as the figure walked from out of the shadows, with chiming sounds ringing from the small bell stringed to his ceremonial bamboo hat on his head. He stepped into the opening and fully into the sun's light flashing through the tree branches of the forest they were in. She saw that the very person, whom she once loved as her older brother who later betrayed her, was dressed in the same clothes worn by both Itaki and Kisame. Deidara, Ryota pronounced the name as though she spat venom laced with acid from her mouth. What a revolting surprise. Deidara smiled as he eyed the young teenage jounin before him. Looks like everything that Kisame Dana said to me were all true, Deidara commented as he removed his ceremonial bamboo hat, you've grown into a lovely young woman, yeah. Ryota stayed calm despite her impulses to attack. She knew that attacking irrationally would mean her death. So you went from being a terrorist for hire to Akatsuki scum, Ryota spat, not a day goes by without me wishing for your death you bastard. Is that any way to talk to your old sensei? Deidara said with mock hurt, I merely came by to see what my little apprentice has been up to lately. When I heard that you, the shining stone of Uegakur, betrayed IWA and sided with Konoha of all villages, I had to come and see it for myself. You hated the fact that I betrayed and turned against our home village, and here it is that you go and follow in my footsteps in becoming a missing nin and a wanted criminal in IWA, yeah. Shut up, Ryota yelled, I'm not like you. My abandoning IWA has no relations to your betrayal. So there were circumstances, Deidara deduced, would those circumstances revolve around a particular elite jounin? Ryota gave the blonde Akatsuki member no reply. Deidara grinned, I see. You've taken a real liking to Naruto-san. From what Kisame Dana told me, you two seemed rather close. Shut up, Ryota retorted, you know nothing about me. I know you have feelings for Namikaze Naruto-san, Deidara taunted, you may not say it outright, but I can read it off you like living art, one that will eventually wither away with the rest of everything you once had. Ryota felt herself losing control of her anger as she clenched her fists tightly and grinded her teeth. I'm not here to see Naruto-san, Deidara stated, I simply came to have a little artistic fun with my once prized prodigy. How would you like to become one of my greatest works of art just like how your sister was? Totally losing control of her anger, Ryota rushed recklessly at Deidara. I'll kill you. Meanwhile, Haku arrived back at the village with the 3 kids. Go report what happened to the Hokage, Haku said with urgency. I must go and find Naruto-kun. Kano Amaru and his friends nodded their heads as they ran to the Hokage tower. Haku ran as fast as she could to Naruto's estate. While on her way, she sincerely hoped nothing terrible happened to Ryota, though she herself felt bad for leaving Ryota behind to fight against whoever their attacker was. Please be alright until I get help, Ryota-san, Haku mentally prayed while running to Naruto's estate. Back in the forest, there was a series of explosions and earthquakes. Ryota, using her jutsu to summon her insane strength, formed craters with every punch she threw into the ground in the attempt to catch and kill Deidara. The blonde Akatsuki nin however managed to easily evade all of her attacks. The status of the surrounding area was leveled trees and a damaged landscape with burning debris scattered all over. Deidara dodged and ducked from another punch from Ryota and retaliated with a sweeping kick. Ryota leaped over it and retrieved a kunai from her pouch, attempting to stab her former sensei in the head. Deidara sidestepped away from the oncoming assault and somersaulted with his right foot kicked into her jaw, making her flip backwards off her feet and down on the ground face down. She got back up before rubbing her sore and bruised jaw with some blood that seeped down both ends of her mouth. Putting his right hand straight out towards the teen girl, Deidara motioned her to come at him. Over here, little Ryota. She growled and spat out a bit of blood before charging. Deidara stood his ground before he jumped with a swing kick that followed. The girl ducked under the blow, the older ninja's heel brushing her hair, and countered with brutal fist to Deidara's chest, the first blow she landed since the fight started, or so she thought as she watched him fly backwards and crash into a tree, only to burst into a pile of dirt that fell to the ground. Kawarimi, Ryota realized before a pale-colored grasshopper jumped at her. She leaped backwards from it before it blew up. Knocked off her balance from the explosion, Deidara speedily capitalized on it before the female jounin could recover. She was hit 4 times, 3 punches to her face followed by a roundhouse kick to her side, sending her rolling and sprawling to the floor. By the time she regained her bearings she found herself on the ground once again. Damn you, Ryota swore as she got back up off the ground with clenched fists. Going over to a tree, she grabbed and pulled it entirely out the ground. Aiming it at her former sensei, she hurled it at him like a javelin intending to plunge him with it. Deidara jumped into the air before the tree could meet up with him as he threw several clay spiders onto the tree. Katsu, Deidara said before the tree exploded into and blowing burning pieces of wood everywhere. Ryota suddenly appeared behind him and grabbed him by the back of his neck tightly. Got you, she said as she dashed down speedily toward the surface of the ground with Deidara's face aimed to plunge into the earth. The ground shook momentarily with Ryota's hand impaled deep into the ground with Deidara's head smashed into the ground with his body hanging on the ground in the crater they were in. The body though dissolved into mud and lost its form. Deidara presently was standing on top of one of the trees with a smile on his face. Little Ryota, Deidara taunted, I taught you better than this. Your style of fighting lacks true art, yeah. To hell with you, Ryota retorted before pulling her fist from out of the ground, I'm just getting started. Really, Deidara mocked. Ryota turned her eyes to see a bird flying to her from her left at a fast speed. Katsu. She barely had enough time to create an earth-manipulated shield from the ground to block the explosion that followed, but she managed to block most of the explosion. After doing a set of hand seals, Ryota raised her hand and yelled, Iwa no Tsurugai. A katana made from stone formed together from the ground before she grabbed and held onto it. After swinging it around to get a feel for it, she jumped and charged at Deidara who was still standing on the tree branch. She swung the katana in the attempt to decapitate him. Deidara though leaned backwards as the katana's blade swiftly swung over him and through the tree, effectively slicing the tree in half as it fell to the ground with a loud thud. Standing back up, he jumped off the branch as Ryota chased after him. Landing back on the ground, she swung and slashed at Deidara who was efficiently evading all of her attacks. After flipping away from him, she stabbed the katana into the ground before she went through a series of complex hand seals and Doton, Mimaizu Bokatsu no Jutsu, Earth Release, Earthworm Grave Technique, Ryota yelled after clasping her hands together. From out of the ground burst forth 4 large earthworms made from rocks, dirt, and gravel. The worms appeared around Deidara in all 4 directions and rushed at him. Smirking, he threw 4 clay orbs into the worms' open mouths and Katsu. The 4 worms exploded into large chunks of gravel and crashed down onto the ground. Before Ryota could reform the worms, Deidara rushed at her and swiftly punched her hard in the guts, causing her to double over painfully before he grabbed and held her head down by her hair and brought his kneecap into her face. Ryota, dazed with a busted nose that now had blood seeping down from, was tossed away from Deidara to the ground. The injured Jounin gradually pulled herself together though her head was hurting from receiving that brute assault from his kneecap. Moments later, after getting her senses back, she heard sounds of footsteps hurriedly approaching her before she felt a pair of hands take hold and helped her up. "Naruto-kun," Ryota muttered with her head still facing the floor. "No, it's me," said the feminine voice helping Ryota off the ground. "Are you alright, Ryota Emuto?" Ryota knew that voice. She looked up with widened eyes as she looked at female figure in front of her. She thought she was hallucinating. "Chizuru ne-chan," Ryota said in disbelief. Before she could say another word. "Yes, Emuto," Chizuru smiled happily, "it's me." Ryota saw that this was no genjutsu as she couldn't dispel it. It was Chizuru as she last remembered her, /n, think of an older Sango from the anime Inuyasha with short black hair. "Ne-chan," Ryota muttered with disbelieving eyes, "but you died." "I know," Chizuru said sadly, "Deidara was too strong for me back then when I tried to stop him. I'm sorry for leaving you alone in this world. It must have been really hard for you." "But how can you possibly be here and alive?" Ryota asked quizzically. "I'm not sure how or what force brought me back, Emuto," Chizuru said, "I'm just happy to be here with you again." Ryota looked around for Deidara. "Where is he?" Ryota said, "Where's Deidara?" "He took off after I stopped him from killing you a few minutes ago," Chizuru said. "I don't know where he went though he was shocked and caught off guard to see me alive again." Looking at Ryota, Chizuru said, "So it's true that you defected from our home village to Konoha. I was shocked to learn that you were labeled as an A-class missing nin in the bingo books after I went in search of you in IWA." A feeling of guilt overcame the young Earth-type Jounin. "I'm sorry, but, what happened was..." "Don't worry," Chizuru assured, "I'm sure you had your reasons whatever they may be. I'm just happy to be with you again." Ryota nodded, smiled happily. "Emuto," Chizuru said, "let me hold you again. It's been so long." Ryota wrapped her arms Chizuru who in turn wrapped her arms around Ryota as they held each other in a loving embrace. "I really missed you, Ne-chan," Ryota said with tears coming down her face. "I missed you too," Chizuru said as she held Ryota closer to her. "I'm so happy that we can be together now." Moving her lips closer to Ryota's left ear a moment later, Chizuru whispered sincerely, "Ryota Emuto, there's something you must know." Ryota muttered. "Art is a blast," Chizuru whispered before she glowed brightly and exploded on Ryota, shaking and covering the large surrounding area in thick black clouds with dust and a blaze of burning debris blasting from where Ryota was last standing. Chapter 44, Bonding. Meanwhile in Konoha. After a good amount of running, Haku was reaching the large gates leading into the Namikaze estate. She knew it wouldn't be long until she met up with Naruto and informed him of what was happening. Haku took a moment to catch her breath as her lungs begged for oxygen. A few minutes later, Haku stood back up and started running again. Back in the forest. The entire surrounding region where Ryota and Chizuru previously stood rocked violently as flames and burning debris flew everywhere. It was a while before the land steadied and the ball of flames died out. After the chaos calmed, Deidara burst from out of the ground. Shaking the dirt from off of him, Deidara walked over to the large crater made from the explosion. There was still some flames burning from within and around the crater. "An artistic way for you to reunite with your older sister little Ryota, yeah," Deidara smirked sinisterly. He then heard the sound of crumbling rocks. He turned to see Ryota's stone katana lying on the ground before breaking apart and turning back to the pieces of stones the katana once was. Deidara grinned, "As I've always said, art is a blast." As soon as he said those words a large boulder burst from the ground in front of him. Before he could react, the boulder sprouted spikes from all directions from itself. "What?" Deidara shouted as he jumped and evaded the spikes, only for the spike-covered boulder to retract the spikes to itself. The boulder, while levitating 3 feet off the ground, kept the spikes at 2-foot extension from itself and began to spin profusely at a fast speed and chase after him. Deidara found himself running from the flying spinning spiked boulder that sought to grind and crush him as it plowed through everything that came in its path. The Akatsukinen jumped and back-flipped over the spinning boulder as it passed under him before he threw molded clay spiders onto the spinning boulder. "Katsu!" Deidara yelled as the spiders exploded the boulder to pieces. When the smoke and dust cleared, Deidara looked to see who was in front of him in the center of the rubble. "It's you," he smirked as he saw the serious look on Ryata's face. "So you survived my trap, yeah?" Ryata said nothing as she remained reserved and calm. "You've certainly came a long way, little Ryata," Deidara said. "Bastard," Ryata spoke with a voice filled with malice and hate, "what you did was both cruel and low, and a perversion of my older sister's name and legacy. You're despicable, and I'm disgusted and ashamed of the fact that you were my favorite sensei. Tell me, how were you able to see through my trap? There was no way for you to have speedily escaped from that explosion." Looking at her former sensei in the eye, she said, "You don't know my sister like I did. You never did, in fact." "What's that supposed to mean?" Deidara inquired. "As cunning and deadly your trap was, however," Ryata explained, "it had a costly design flaw." Was all Deidara said. "When you said that I followed in your footsteps in becoming a missing nin of IWA, Ryata continued, "in a small way you were right." Flashback. Looking at Ryata, Chizuru said, "So it's true that you defected from our home village to Konoha. I was shocked to learn that you were labeled as an A-class missing nin in the bingo books after I went in search of you in IWA." A feeling of guilt overcame the young Earth-type Jounin. "I'm sorry, but, what happened was..." "Don't worry," Chizuru assured, "I'm sure you had your reasons, whatever they may be. I'm just happy to be with you again." End flashback. One of Chizuru's greatest ambitions was to become the future Tsuchikage, Ryata said, "though you at one time were considered a potential candidate. But unlike the two of us, my sister Chizuru was a true Uegakuer patriot. She loved her country and was willing to die for it. She had no tolerance for treason of any sort from anyone. When your fake Chizuru readily accepted me in spite of my crimes against IWA, I knew then that she was not my real sister, and I used Kawarami to switch myself with a Tsukabushin, Earth clone. Clever," Deidara muttered. "It's also surprising that you referred to Uegakuer as her country instead of our country. We no longer have any ties with IWA, in case you've forgotten," Ryata remarked. "I severed what little ties I had with Uegakuer the day I sided with Naruto-kun when he went after and killed Orochimaru. My ties now are with Konoha and Naruto-kun." Deidara said nothing to his former apprentice Unital. "Does that mean you now severed your ties with your late sister?" "Don't get me wrong," Ryata corrected, "I loved my sister and I always regarded her as one of my precious people. But my sister was one who placed duty and her loyalty to IWA ahead of everything else. And she would not have taken too kindly to my betrayal and siding with the son of Konoha's Yondaime. Chizuru despised Konoha's Yellow Flash for killing our father during the IWA Konoha War. Were she to still be alive, she would have done everything in her power to personally hunt and track me down, and bring me back to face Uegakuer justice by the Tsuchikage. I must admit that I've clearly underestimated you," Deidara said. "You're not as gullible as I thought, little Ryata." "I'm not little anymore," Ryata retorted, "and I'm no longer your apprentice. I may have been fooled by you in the past when I was much younger and more naive, but Chizuru wasn't deceived in her death by your hands. That day showed me your true face and it saved me from becoming one of your molded pawns. My sister died and gave her life to protect me from you. And using her as a twisted means to kill me is a crime I can never and will never forgive." "Whatever," Deidara scoffed, "I didn't come to Konoha to ask for your forgiveness, nor do I wish for it from the likes of Dash." Deidara was cut off. He narrowly dodged a kunao that grazed across a few strands of his blonde hair in front of his face. "Well now," said the masculine voice, "I'm sure I can get you to beg for mercy." Deidara's eyes turned to see Kakashi standing from the side several feet away from him. Suzuki and Sai appeared and stood some distance from the duo while Sakura went over to where Ryata was. "Are you okay?" Sakura asked. "Just fine," Ryata remarked. We saw and heard explosions from this direction while we're on our way to perform our next mission, Sai explained, so we came to investigate. Only to find another Akatsuki member, Kakashi said while keeping his guard up. Sasuke looked at Deidara with cautious eyes, seeing the clothes you're wearing could only mean that you know Atake. Deidara turned to look at the raven-haired boy. Smirking, Deidara said, you must be Atake's younger brother, yeah. He told me some things about you, things pertaining to your lack of hatred and being the weakest one who survived the Uchiha clan massacre. Sasuke growled while fighting himself from attacking the S-class ninja. If anything, he didn't want a repeat of what happened last time. Where's Atake? Sasuke asked. What's it matter to you anyway? Deidara scoffed, you'll just get your ass kicked again by him anyway, though I'm surprised that Naruto-san can give your brother a hard time considering his reputation. That did little to calm Sasuke's anger as the cursed seal started acting up. Sasuke grabbed and held his neck while trying to keep the cursed seal's influence under control, as painful as it was. Sasuke-kun, Sakura said worriedly as she hurried over to him. Naruto-san is stronger than you, Sasuke, Deidara said as he reached into his pouch carrying his clay. The mouth in his right hand reached in and bit into some of the clay before chewing on it. After a couple of moments. Careful, Ryota warned, he specializes in long-range explosive attacks. The mouthed palm spat out the molded clay as Deidara placed it on the ground. Forming a seal, the shaped clay burst into a puff of smoke before clearing away. When the smoke cleared, what everyone now saw was a colored clay copy of Naruto. I think it's time Naruto-san proves that point, yeah, Deidara said before the clay clone rushed at them. Kakashi and the others prepared to battle the clone when suddenly. Raise non, Naruto yelled as he speed-dashed like a blur and plunged the glowing spiral orb of chakra into the clay clone, blowing and destroying it completely. Deidara smirked upon seeing the blonde, with Haku arriving and standing close by Naruto. You should know that you can never replicate the real thing with cheap clay imitations, Naruto said. Namikaze Naruto-san, Deidara replied, Konoha's second flash and the strongest shinobi of Konoha since your father, yeah. In the bingo books a flea on-site order was given about you, none of the Sunnins were given that privilege. Naruto ignored the man as the Umbu appeared behind Naruto and the others all facing Deidara. You're surrounded, a female Umbu with long purple hair said, turn yourself in. Naruto and Kakashi knew that female Umbu to be Uzuki Yojeo, Genko Hayate's lover. As much as I'd like to stick around in Konoha prison before being executed, my time here is up, yeah. As Naruto and Kakashi were about to charge at Deidara. Katsu, Deidara yelled as a series of large explosions started occurring around the surrounded areas, knocking down trees and setting large fires. The explosions continued for a short while longer. Art is a blast, Deidara shouted as his form disappeared into the flames and smoke before anyone could go after him. Quickly, Kakashi said, we must get away from here. Everyone nodded as they took to flight from the burning forest. When everyone was safely out of the forest, Naruto pulled out a scroll from within his trench coat and opened it, revealing a kanji for flood inside the scroll. Do your thing, Haku-san, Naruto said, throwing the scrolling high into the air before activating the seal in it, bursting forth a massive deluge of water from it. Acting quickly, Haku, using her Hyouten Hihutsu, performed a one-handed seal, and turned to falling floods of water into frozen rain and showered the burning forest with the frozen rain water, effectively dousing out the flames all around the forest. Ascending now from the forest were white smoke and the smell of burnt wood, with the flames completely extinguished. The coward, Sasuke remarked, he escaped. Only because reinforcement arrived, Naruto said, I'm sure he'd have stayed longer had we not showed up. You mean had you not showed up, Sasuke remarked. Excuse me, Naruto retorted. He only left because you appeared, Sasuke said, he'd have fought all of us if you didn't show up. He made that clear if you haven't noticed. Don't underestimate the enemy, Sasuke, Naruto replied. Sasuke said nothing as Naruto continued, Deidara would have had to deal with the Umbu, 2 A-class Jounins, Haku-san, you guys and myself included. Despite this, I'm sure that as an S-class missing nin he could have given us a hard time if he wanted to, but evidently we weren't his targets, Ryota was. The female said nothing as all eyes looked at her. Why would Deidara go after Ryota-san? Yojeo asked. The Akatsuki in general has no interest in Ryota, Naruto answered, but I wouldn't put it past them to use anyone close to me or my comrades as bait to lure me out into an ambush. You said earlier that only Ryota-san was the target, Sakura spoke up, so why are you placing yourself as if you're the target? Because he is in fact, Ryota made clear. The only reason Deidara came here was to cause trouble for me because we both have a bad history with each other. The group Deidara, Itachi, and Kisame wants Naruto-kun for reasons we don't know. The thing we do know is that so far each member we've seen from the Akatsuki so far are all S-class missing nins and wanted criminals. I'm sure that there are other members of that group and they're all S-class missing nins as well, no doubt. That's an excellent deduction, Kakashi said. That's the exact same thing Jiraiya-sama told me sometime before Itaka's second return to Konoha. What is this Akatsuki of which you guys speak of? Sakura inquired. Very bad news, Naruto replied, and so far, there isn't much about them that we know about them or their objectives. Sakura, Sasuke, and Sai knew that Naruto had run in with the Akatsuki before either of them did. They sensed that he knew more than he was letting on, but they chose not to dig too deep into the matter. Anyway, Naruto said, the damage is done and Deidara is gone. Ryota, Haku-san and I will report to Kaa-chan and give her a full report. Kakashi nodded as he gestured to his genins to follow him and resume their original mission. The Umbu took off speedily and left the scene, leaving Naruto, Haku, and Ryota behind. Are you alright, Ryota-san? Haku asked while examining her injuries. I'll be fine, Ryota assured, nothing a medic nin can't fix. There are two here, so let's heal you up, Naruto offered before both he and Haku tended to her injuries. It wasn't long until Ryota was completely healed up. Kmin, Naruto said, we have to report this to Kaa-chan. The three ninjas then turned from the forest and started on their trek back to the village. Later that day. It was surprising how so much could happen all in one day. First, Tamari's arrival to Konoha, her betrothal to Naruto and inauguration as a Konoha shinobi and Chiryunin, then having her escorted to the Namikaze estate where she was later introduced to Hinata and Ino before getting them acquainted. And with all that happening, Ryota and Haku were busy hanging out with Kano Amaru and his friends before running into trouble with Deidara. Ryota and Haku gave Tsunade a full report with Naruto explaining everything that took place in the forest. The fact that she, Jiraiya and Sandaime now knew who the third member of the Akatsuki was proved useful, though they found it odd at first that Deidara didn't attempt to go after Naruto. After the briefing, Naruto, Haku, and Ryota were dismissed. While exiting the Hokage Tower, Naruto started on his way back to his estate when Ryota went toward a different direction. Where are you going? Haku asked. For a walk, Ryota said, I just need to clear my mind. That's all. Before Haku could ask another question, Ryota turned and continued on her way. She's very sad, Haku said sympathetically. She came face to face with the missing nin who killed someone who was precious to her. That missing nin was her former sensei, Naruto said, causing Haku to turn and look at him. He was? Haku asked. Naruto nodded. Ryota loved Deidara as her older brother at one time and she used to believe in him. But he later betrayed her and murdered her older sister in front of her before leaving Ryota behind like she wasn't worth killing. He did so without so much of a second thought. That's cruel, Haku said while feeling sympathetic. It's said that Ryota-san suffered such a loss. I know, Naruto agreed. All we can do now is give Ryota some time to herself. I'm sure she'll be okay. With that said, Naruto resumed his walk back with his estate, leaving Haku to her thoughts. Later, on the Hokage monument. Ryota was sitting alone on the ground on top of the monument watching the sunset. Ironically, she was sitting on top of the head representing the very man responsible for killing her father, though she felt more anger at seeing the man who killed her older sister. Ryota never held it against Naruto for what his father did all those years ago since Iwa started the war with Konoha in the first place. The Earth-type Kunoichi wiped away the few tears that fell down her face while thinking about her sister and how Deidara used her sister against her. I'm sure you would have been ashamed of me, Chizuru-ne-chan, Ryota thought, but my mind is already made up. So I'm sure that we would have faced off against each other were you to still be alive. Are you alright? A feminine voice asked. Ryota turned to see Haku standing behind her. I'm alright, Ryota said. You were crying just now, Haku pointed out. Ryota found no point in denying it. I'm very sorry about your sister, Haku said sympathetically. Ryota sighed lowly. Naruto-kun told you, didn't he? He did, Haku said as she went over and sat next to her. Naruto-kun is really rubbing off on me, Ryota said. He always comes up here whenever he needs time to think and contemplate on things, and here I am doing the same thing. Haku knew Ryota really likes Naruto, but she chose not to bring that up since that wasn't the subject she came to talk to Ryota about. I never had a sister, Haku said, starting a conversation, but I do understand the feelings of hurt, sorrow, and betrayal when someone you loved betrays and kills a precious person in front of you. Ryota looked at Haku as the ice-type medic Kunoichi continued. My mother loved my father and they used to be very happy though they didn't have much. They were joyous when I born to them and despite not having much in the way of money, we continued on and were a happy family. My parents were precious to me. Ryota listened to Haku as she heard her voice turn sad, but my mother came from a clan with a bloodline limit that was hated and feared in my home village. When my father found out about it, he turned on her and killed her in front of me. He tried to kill me too, but my bloodline activated and I ended up killing him instead. I became a homeless orphan after that day, scavenging for food from garbage to garbage and no one was willing to take me in. Ryota looked at Haku with a surprised expression. Though Ryota herself was an orphan, however, she never lived life as a homeless since she was able to live off the monetary savings left behind by her older sister and father. Later, I was found and taken in by Mamakai Zabuza-sama. He gave me food, clothing, and shelter, and trained me to be a kunoichi and his weapon. He helped me develop my bloodline limit since he found use for it. Despite what others thought of him, he was precious to me and I was willing to give my life to protect him. Sometime late, a wealthy businessman named Gato came to Nami no Kuni and employed us for a job to kill the bridge builder named Tajuna, a man Naruto-kun and his friends were hired to protect. I fought against Naruto-kun and lost. I cried and begged him to kill me, feeling that I failed Zabuza-sama as his weapon. But Naruto-kun spared me, telling me that I could find a new way to live my life. That same day though, Zabuza-sama and I were betrayed by Gato, who had planned on killing us after the job was done. Zabuza-sama died after killing him and many of his other men with him. Zabuza-sama, before he died, said he wanted me to live my free and how I wanted to and not go through life the way he did. I lost another precious person and I was alone again. Ryota couldn't believe that Haku lived the kind of life. From the way Ryota would see the young medic Kunoichi conduct herself, she honestly wouldn't have expected Haku to have gone through such an experience. But Naruto-kun saved me from being alone again. In spite of the fact that I was his enemy who had nothing personal against him, Naruto-kun never held it against me. He offered me amnesty, a chance to join Konoha and become a medic kunoichi while making this village my new home. He gave me a chance to find new precious people and a new purpose in my life. Naruto-kun is precious to me and I owe him a great deal. Ryota turned her gaze from Haku and looked over at the village. You know Haku, Ryota said, we seem to have more in common than you know. Haku turned to the Earth-type kunoichi as she continued, Naruto-kun and I didn't start off on go terms either. In fact, we were the worst of enemies. I was originally assigned by the Tsuchikage to go after and bring back Naruto-kun to Uegakuer by whatever means possible. I lost completely to Naruto-kun on the two occasions we battled seriously, once in Nami no Kuni and the second time in the Forest of Death. So those stories you told us earlier today at the ramen stand about how you beat up Naruto-kun were all half-truths, Ryota interjected. I fought against Naruto-kun really hard, but I never succeeded in beating him. My defeats were so strategic and humiliating that I literally cried on both occasions, and the second time I lost, I begged him to kill me. Yet despite our bad past, he spared and healed me, and sometime later after that he stood for me in giving me amnesty and becoming a Konoha shinobi. But life for me in this village as a foreigner is anything but easy to deal with. I'm hated and feared by many of the villagers because of my origins in IWA, and no one was willing to give me a place to stay at. I'm sorry, Haku said as she lowered her head, I can't honestly say that I had it hard living here in Konoha. I was practically welcomed with open arms by everyone, and the fact I have a bloodline limit was all the more why the village council welcomed me as part of their village. I was given a small but reasonable apartment to live in with Naruto-kun's help the same day I arrived here in Konoha. Naruto-kun also helped me adapt to life in this village and had me introduced to all of his friends. I may not be completely accepted by the villagers, Ryota said, but Naruto-kun never faltered in helping me adjust to life here. He was kind enough to allow me to live in his estate despite the protests from many of the villagers, primarily from the female population. He even saved my life and protected me when Itaka nearly killed me, making it very clear to Itaka that I'm one of the people he'd stake his life on in protecting. You're precious to Naruto-kun, Haku said. Ryota unconsciously blushed lightly though she kept a controlled demeanor. That's why he protected you with his life, Haku added, that's why he helped us in ways no one else would. We're precious to Naruto-kun. Don't I feel special, Ryota remarked with a smile, thank you for listening and being around me without looking at me with indifference or scorn. I really appreciate that. You're Naruto-kun's friend, Haku said, and I want to be your friend and friends help those precious to them. Ryota smiled brighter, yes they do. The two kunoichis sat there together while enjoying each other's company. Things are looking up for you Ryota, Naruto said while standing behind one of the trees at 20 feet away from the girls. Naruto came by earlier to talk to Ryota about what happened earlier but evidently Haku beat him to the punch. Rather than interrupting, he thought it'd be best for the girls to form a bond of some sort with each other. Leaving it at that, Naruto shunshined from the area and returned back to his estate. A week later. It's amazing how word travels in large distances. Word about Temeri's joining Konoha as a citizen and Chiyunin spread like wildfire throughout the village. What was more shocking was when Naruto's betrothal to Hinata, Ino, and Temeri was announced, especially when everyone learned that the girls were to be living with him in his estate with Ryota already living there. Of course, this didn't go without some kind of backlash. During the week, the girls faced jealous glares and scorn from many of the female populace of the village. Others who knew of their relationship with Naruto weren't all that surprised. In fact, some figured it was eventually going to happen. The genins were all up on Hinata, Ino, and Temeri as they bombarded the three girls with a whole bunch of questions. Sakura and Tenten were asking a whole range of questions, some of which were rather too personal to answer and a few were outright ridiculous. The genins were shocked when they learned that Hinata was no longer the Hyuga heiress and that the position was given to Hanabi instead. Hinata told them not to make too big a deal out of it since she accepted stepping down from the position as heiress without making a huge issue out of it. Also she explained that just because she's no longer the heiress didn't mean that she won't carry out her goals in helping to unite the Hyuga clan. If anything she was sure she could help Hanabi acknowledge that the division between the two houses in the Hyuga clan have to be done away with, along with finding an alternative to the birdcage seal. Kiba made remarks about how lucky of a dog Naruto was to be living in the house with bunch of hot girls. He asked Naruto if he was planning on having some wild and kinky fun with the girls in the future. This of course was rewarded with a smack to his head with a metal fan in courtesy of Temeri. It went without say that neither Temeri nor Kiba got along with each other since Kiba was still sore about how he and Akamaru lost to the Wind Mistress during the preliminaries. Sai made remarks to the group that females of various species are often attracted to the stronger more dominant males of their respective species. He further explained in details how Naruto's situation only proved his point about what he read and researched in that zoology book and how females seek strong males for mates to reproduce as promising offspring with. He added that Hinata, Ino, and Temeri is all strong females, and as such, they need a stronger alpha male to lead and protect them and procreate with. Said to say Sai's form of logic got him into more trouble than it was worth as Tenten, Ino, Temeri, Sakura, Ryota, and Hinata didn't too kindly to his words. For the sake of health, Sai spent the day running from the 6 girls as they sought to place him in the hospital. Several times, they nearly succeeded in capturing him, but he managed to give them the slip and escape their wraths. Niji and Shikamaru didn't make too big a deal out Naruto's business. Shikamaru found doing so would just be too troublesome and decided to do some cloud watching as a means to being more productive with his time. Sasuke wasn't all that thrilled. The fact that Naruto was given special privileges in being inaugurated as the new Namikaze clan leader, allowed to be part of the village council and given 2 daughters from respected clans of Konoha and the daughter of Hokage as future brides to help revive his clan angered him. He didn't find it fair that he as the last of the Uchihas in Konoha wasn't privileged in being made the new Uchiha clan leader and allowed to be part of the council. However, Sasuke grew to respect Hinata and Ino, and in a couple of ways Ryota as well. The three mentioned girls weren't like the fangirls he grew tired of, and though Sasuke would never consider mixing his bloodline with either of the three, however, he admitted to himself that if he were to have a girl betrothed to him, he'd want her to have strengths and characteristics similar to Hinata, Ino and Ryota. Temari, being a foreigner, faced a measure of difficulties adjusting to life in Konoha. The fact that she was a foreigner from a recent invading village betrothed to the son of Minato Namikaze made her an unpopular figure among many in the village. Some of the people accused her of not even caring for Naruto and treated her as an outcast. And since she was to serve as a liaison between Suna and Konoha, some even looked at her as a business girl whose only reason for marrying Naruto later in the years was just because it was her assignment in solidifying the alliance between the two villages. Naruto, Hinata, and Ino comforted Temari, who did quite a feat in masking her wanting to cry. The Wind Mistress found solace in befriending Ryota and Anko, who in their own rights understood Temari's plight. Temari, like the others, knew that Anko was Naruto's Jounin sensei at one time, and she is very well aware of how unorthodox her behavior was around Naruto. The following day, at the Namikaze estate, all four girls were at Naruto's mansion and pretty much had nothing to do today. Hinata and Ino decided to explain to Temari the history between Naruto and Anko. Ryota stuck around to hear that one since Haku was busy at the hospital helping Shizune. Both Haku and Ryota started hanging out together frequently since their conversation on top of the Hokage monument, and they started becoming really good friends. Anko came by later seeking to talk with Naruto about something that was on her mind. Seeing that only the four girls were there and that Naruto wouldn't buy back until much later, Anko suggested taking advantage of the place before Naruto's return. Hinata was a bit reluctant at first, but when Anko and Ino reminded the girl that Naruto's mansion was their home now, Hinata eventually went with the flow. That day all five of them hung out and girl talked like nobody's business, and since Anko was around, subjects the girls wouldn't talk about openly in public were brought up and discussed. Later Anko went over into the bar section of the living room and opened the cabinets to find what looked like expensive bottles of wine and imported liquor. What captured her attention was the fact that the bottles of wine she was looking at were really old, thus adding more to their value and taste. Grinning widely like a giddy schoolgirl, Anko took out one of the bottles in a tray of cups and brought them over to the girls. "Who's up for a drink?" Anko shouted enthusiastically. The girls turned and looked at the older woman questionably. "Anko-san," Hinata said, "we're underage." "Please," Anko retorted, "old enough to kill, old enough to drink. Besides, why would Yondaime Hokage keep them around if he felt that way?" Though they didn't say it, the girls saw her point. Ryota, liking Anko's attitude, grabbed one of the cups and had Anko pour her some wine in it. When she sipped the wine, she felt her eyes roll to the back of her head. "Wow," Ryota shouted, "this is some really strong shit." "Let me try that," Temari said before taking one of the remaining cups and getting some wine from Anko. Her reaction from the drink was just the same. "Damn," Temari exclaimed, "Naruto-kun has some really good taste in wine." "You drank wine before?" Ino asked. "I did a few times during my days in Suna," Temari said. "I had to sneak to do so while trying not to get caught by my father." "Let me find out that daddy's little girl has been acting naughty," Anko teased. "I was anything but daddy's little girl," Temari retorted. Seeing how the older females were enjoying the wine, Ino, not wanting to feel left out, took one of the cups from the tray and got some wine for herself. She was completely unprepared for the reaction as she coughed a few times. "You're supposed to sip it, not gulp it down like some 40 Oz, Anko remarked. After clearing her throat, Ino got her bearings back. "My father enjoys drinking sake with Chuji and Shikamaru's fathers," Ino said while getting her voice back. "I wonder how they could get used to it." Hinata saw how the girls were enjoying the alluring taste of Naruto's expensive wine. She was about to dismiss herself when, "Come on Hinata," Anko invited, "have yourself some of this good stuff." "No thanks," Hinata declined, "I'll pass. Besides, won't Naruto-kun be mad at us for drinking his stuff without his permission?" "Like he doesn't have more than enough to buy more of this stuff," Anko retorted. "Listen, you're not living under your father's roof anymore, and being a kunoichi and betrothed to Yondaime Hokage and all practically makes you an adult now. Come on, you know you wanna." Hinata was debating with herself about it. One part of herself said no while another part wanted to let loose for once. "Come on Hina-chan," Ino encouraged, "a small taste wouldn't be that bad, would it?" Sighing to herself, Hinata consented and took a cup from the tray before Anko poured and filled her cup completely. Gulping, Hinata sipped the wine in its entirety until the cup was totally empty. Anko and the others looked at Hinata as they waited for her reaction. Hinata looked up at them with a large smile and light blush on her face. "Pour me some more," Hinata said while holding out her cup. The females looked at the girl with a surprised expression, especially since Hinata was the youngest of them. "She's a better drinker than we are," Ryota remarked with a disbelieving look. "Wanna bet," Anko replied with a smirk on her face. Later that night. It was late and close to midnight when Naruto returned home. He had a long day training Kano Amaru, Mogi, and Udon. During his time training them, he gauged their strengths and weaknesses to see where improves were to be made. He saw that much work was going to be needed in their development as future ninjas of Konoha, especially as the kind of ninjas he had in mind in developing them into. "They have a long way to go," Naruto said to himself while unlocking his door, "but I'll worry about that later. Now I can go home and relax." With that in mind, Naruto opened and walked into his mansion only be greeted by loud karaoke music playing from the living room. "Spoke too soon," Naruto muttered to himself before closing and locking the door behind him. Naruto walked into the living room and saw a sight he wasn't prepared for. The living room was in a complete mess with scattered dirty dishes, cups, and food crumbs around the floor and furniture. The strong smell of wine soon filled his nose and the karaoke music machine was still blasting loudly with the microphones on the floor. Obviously, the girls were singing and dancing earlier while in their drunken stupor. He went into the kitchen and found it a mess as well. There were dango sticks and other sorts of food and open snacks around the counter. Naruto slapped his hand to his face and was ready to scold the girls for pigging out and turning his living room and kitchen into a dump. He went back into the living room to find them. When he did, he found all 5 females knocked out and sleeping on the couches. Ino was snoring lightly with her head up while sleeping in a sitting position. Her blonde hair was released from its ponytail style and allowed to flow down past her shoulders with some of it lying on her face. Hinata, with her Eskimo coat resting on the arm of the couch, was lying on the couch while using Ino's lap as a pillow. Hinata's right arm was hanging loosely off the couch and down onto the floor. Temari was knocked out on a separate couch likewise in a sitting position with her right arm holding her head up while resting her arm on the arm of the couch. Like in the case with Ino, her blonde hair was let down and allowed to flow down to her shoulders. Ryota was sleeping next to Temari on the floor while resting her arms on top of Temari's legs and laying her head on her arms like a pillow. Her headband, jounin vest, and dark uniform shirt were scattered around the floor. Next to her was an empty cup that seemed to have spilled over leftover wine onto the carpet. Ryota was wearing only her white tank top and dark ninja pants with white bandages still wrapped around the bottom parts of her legs. Anko was asleep on a recliner that was opened up to allow her to put her feet up and lay back. Her trench coat, miniskirt, leg guards and kunaus were lying loosely on the floor by her. All she was wearing was her partly see-through fishnet bodysuit and Anko herself was sprawled out on the opened-up recliner in a most inappropriate manner. From what Naruto saw, Anko was wearing nothing underneath her fishnet bodysuit and the sight of her would have given any horny pervert an erection if they didn't pass out first from blood loss through the nose. Happily, Jiraiya and Kakashi weren't around to see the sight. Naruto didn't need to give them more fuel to use to tease him with. Naruto sighed and shook his head before he looked around and found 2 empty bottles of his expensive old wine on the table. He didn't need to guess that all 5 of them were drinking themselves stupid thanks to Anko's influence. It also helped to explain the awkward scene he was looking at. "Well, at least my living room isn't a wreck," Naruto said to no one in particular while recalling being told a story from Tenten during his sparring match with her some time ago. She told him about how Lee and alcohol are a most dangerous combination. The fact that Lee was a natural drunken master surprised Naruto, and from what Tenten explained to him, Naruto was sure that a drunken Lee would even give him problems in an actual fight since Guy, Niji and Tenten together had a hard time controlling Lee when he got drunk by accident after Sake fell into his soup once. Looking at the girls, he knew that they wouldn't remember what happened, and that's when it hit him. The sight had Naruto running for his camera. He returned and took several pictures of them from different angles. There was no way he was going to pass this up. He knew that the girls were under a great deal of frustration and stress during the passing week and were in need of release of some sort. Ironically, he knew that their release was going to come with a price since all of them were going to wake up with hangovers. During the passing days, Naruto made an effort to stomp out all of the ridicules made to Temari and Ryota. He made it very clear that Temari and Ryota were both to be treated exactly how every Konohanin were treated. Making 5 kage bushins, he had each of the clones carry the girls to their rooms and placed Anko in a spare guest room. He wasn't going to risk carrying the older woman home across the village in the condition she was in for everyone to see. Though it wasn't really anyone else's business, however, Naruto knew the nosy villagers seeing them would want to know why Anko was coming back from his house drunk. After placing them all in bed, Naruto had the clones clean up the mess the girls made in the kitchen and living room before cleaning himself up and going to bed. The following day, the girls, as Naruto predicted, all woke up with hangovers with no memory as to how they got to bed. Anko was shocked to see that she wasn't back in her house and was instead in Naruto's place in one of his spare rooms. Naruto gave them all something to drink to help calm the hangovers they were having. All 5 females sat around the table in the kitchen, not one of them wanting to go anywhere until their heads stopped spinning. Hinata and Ino thought they were going to be sick for the rest of the day. A while later Naruto came in and brought them all something to see. Placing what he brought with him down on the table, the girls looked to see what it was. Their faces turned several shades of red when they saw the pictures Naruto took of them while they were sleeping in the positions they were in while in the messy living room last night. Konoha's future kunoichis in their finest hour, Naruto remarked while laughing his ass off after seeing their expressions. Though Anko didn't care all that much, the other girls though begged Naruto to not let the others know about this, saying that they'd die from sheer embarrassment and loss of face. Naruto assured them that he wouldn't since he wasn't the type who sorts to embarrass them in front of their friends. However, he didn't let the girls destroy the pictures. He kept them for his photo album so that way, they could have something to look back at and laugh at. The girls apologized for the condition they left his kitchen and living room in and the trouble they gave him since he had to clean up their mess. Naruto forgave and told them not to make drinking a bad habit like Tsunade. He knew that if Tsunade had access to his liquor cabinet, she'd have cleaned him out. Later, Ino and Hinata went to meet up with their respective teams despite the headaches they still had from their hangovers. When asked, the girls said things along the lines of having slept wrong. Luckily, they cleaned themselves up completely so they wouldn't have the smell of alcohol on them or in their breaths. Temari, in spite of her headache, went to perform her tour of duty after being given her assignment by the Hokage while Anko went to report to Ibiki for whatever assignment he had for her. While at work, Anko smacked herself mentally for forgetting to talk to Naruto about something had to tell him. Naruto spent day talking with Haku and Ryota about the new hybrid training he was planning on putting Konohamaru and his 2 friends through. He explained that it's an experimental training that's never been tested or thought up before, and that he'd like to have Konohamaru and his 2 friends go through the training with the 2 of them helping out. He also added that later down the line during the period of training, he was going to call in a special favor from Tsunade in recruiting a particular ninja and helping in the training. After reviewing this ninja's records, Naruto found that requesting his help would be beneficial. The 2 kunoichis, interested in what the hybrid training entailed, agreed to join Naruto in helping in the training. Meanwhile, Teiwa, Kidomaru, Jirobo, Seikon, and Yukon, otherwise known as the Sound Four, were making their way to Konoha. They were allowed to leave for the village a few days ago to retrieve Sasuke. Since they finished their preparations ahead of schedule, Kabuto sent them on their way. Kimimaro, the sole survivor of the Kagaya clan, wanted to go to Konoha with the Sound Four as well. This 15-year-old had a strong devotion towards Orochimaru and viewed him as the only person who cared for him. In his devotion to Orochimaru, Kimimaro stopped at nothing to guarantee the continuation of his master's dreams and ambitions. To this effect, he willingly killed any who opposed or hindered Orochimaru's progress and was willing to offer his body for Orochimaru to inhabit. But that couldn't be done because of the terminal illness he was inflicted with. After learning that Naruto killed Orochimaru, Kimimaro wanted to travel to Konoha and kill Naruto for revenge. Kabuto had to deny Kimimiro's request since he was ill and in no condition to fight. Speaking of Kabuto, he was currently in the research lab once used by Orochimaru. Though Orochimaru was dead, that didn't mean Kabuto didn't intend to continue his master's work for him. The Snake Sunin had left behind many scrolls, jutsus, and potions that were to be used in the preparation of training Sasuke. Kabuto felt it would be a shame to let Orochimaru's hard work go to waste without fruition. Looking over at the table in front of him, Kabuto picked up a wooden vial holder carrying sealed 5 vials in it. The vials were filled with blood and other organic properties that Kabuto managed to retrieve before Konoha Zumbu got their hands on them. What was next to where the vial holder was were 3 sealed jars, one containing what looked like skin with seal markings on them and the other 2 jars containing what appeared to be organic parts. There were preservatives in the vials and jars to keep the blood, skin, and organic parts fresh. The teen medic ninja was determined to have Orochimaru's work and legacy live on through Sasuke, one way or another. Chapter 45, Code of the Ninja. 2 weeks earlier, in Uegakure. The Iwanins were all going about their business and their daily lives. The Tsuchikage was presently in his office doing the bane of all cages, paperwork. While doing his work, the door to his office opened to reveal a Jounin stepping into his office. Tsuchikage-sama, the Jounin greeted as he bowed his head to his leader. The Tsuchikage looked up at the Jounin. "What is it?" the Tsuchikage asked. "There's someone here from Odagakure who wishes an audience with you," the Jounin said. The Tsuchikage nodded to the ninja who went to get the Otonin. He returned with young red-haired Kunoichi with a hat over her head and a flute and scroll being carried in her right hand. "Tsuchikage-sama," the Oto Kunoichi greeted, "I'm Teiwa, a member of the Sound 4 of Odagakure, and my new leader, Kabuto-sama, seeks a favor from you." "And what favor would that be?" the Tsuchikage asked while staying cautious. "He would like to have one of your best ninjas to do a mission," Teiwa said, exercising control of her popularly known foul mouth. "Kabuto-sama is willing to pay a very nice amount of money for this one mission. He said it's of the utmost importance." Teiwa went over and was about to hand him the scroll in her hand when the Iwa Jounin stopped her. The Jounin took the scroll from the teen girl and brought it over to the Tsuchikage himself. After unsealing the scroll, the Tsuchikage found that the scroll was indeed authentic and written by Kabuto himself with the Otokage stamp and insignia on it. The Tsuchikage read through the scroll carefully. After he was done, he looked up at the red-haired girl and asked skeptically, "You're kidding, right?" "It's no joke, Tsuchikage-sama," Teiwa said with now humor in her tone. "Kabuto-sama believes that one of your ninjas will be able to rid us of our little problem." "Little problem?" the Tsuchikage repeated cynically. "If that was the case, your former leader wouldn't have died by his hands." "Orochimaru-sama made a grave mistake in underestimating Naruto," Teiwa said. "Kabuto-sama would have dealt with the problem himself, but presently he has to deal with other matters and unfortunately he doesn't have the best shinobis at his disposal to deal with Naruto. There is one ninja in my village that could see to Naruto's demise, but his condition limits his abilities. Kabuto-sama is presently working on restoring him back to good health, but chances of any success is minimum." The Tsuchikage thought for a moment before he asked, "Who is this ninja of whom you speak?" "His name is Kimimaro of the Kagaya clan," Teiwa replied. The Tsuchikage have heard of that clan, but he thought they were long extinct. They were wiped out because of a most feared ability that clan had in being able to manipulate their bones and use them as weapons, bones that were hard to break, if at all possible. The Tsuchikage sat in his seat as he thought about the possibilities, along with everything else that's happened recently that year. Some time ago news about Ryuta's treachery became common knowledge throughout Uegakure. Not that she had any friends, but she had fellow colleagues who didn't take too happily to her betrayal. Especially when they learned that she sided with the son of Yondaime Hokage, the very man the nation of Iwa grew to abhor, even after his death. There were some who made statements saying that they always knew Ryuta would someday betray them since her former sensei was Deidara. Though Deidara was a hated figure, however, the hatred Iwa held for Namikaze Minato was far worse, and the fact that Ryuta abandoned her mission and sold Uegakure out for Minato's only son made her in effect a most hated traitor. So much so that in their bingo books, a bounty and kill on-sight order was given to any Iwanin who came across her. There were some Iwa shinobis and kunoichis that considered going after Ryuta and returning back with her carcass. However, the thought of dealing with Konoha's second flash was what kept them at bay. They weren't ignorant and left in the dark about Naruto's exploits. His reputation was well known in Iwa, including his victories against powerful ninjas. Many in IWA at first thought the stories about Naruto were exaggerated and overestimated. But when they were given reports with indisputable evidence about the Suna Oto invasion and how Naruto single-handedly slaughtered a whole army of Suna and Oto ninjas with the Hiraishin before killing Orochimaru, one of the legendary Sunnins, and 2 other unidentified S-class cage-level ninjas on his own that same day, no one in IWA was willing to accept missions involving Naruto, even if it was a simple spy mission. Snapping out of his train of thoughts, the Tsuchikage said, "I decline." "You decline?" Teiwa asked before being handed the scroll back from the Tsuchikage. "Though my people and I abhor the late yellow flash of Konoha, however," the Tsuchikage retorted, "I will not allow any of my ninjas to be part of whatever skirmish your leader has with the second flash of Konoha. If what happened to Orochimaru, your village in Tsunagakure is any indication of what this Naruto is capable of doing, I won't foolishly risk the lives of any of my ninjas and people in triggering another war with Konohagakure." "According to my sources, Tsuchikage-sama," Teiwa said, "a jounin from this village was sent by you personally to go after and bring back the son of the Slug Sunnin, who later turned out to also be the son of the late Yellow Flash. I wouldn't be wrong to say that attempting to kidnap the child of 2 Hokages would have been considered a declaration of war. If you value your life," the Tsuchikage remarked with bloodlust coming from out of him, "you'll watch your tongue. I can kill you right where you stand, girl." "My apologies, Tsuchikage-sama," Teiwa replied with a bow. Though the Tsuchikage didn't want to admit it, however, his village was still feeling the effects of what Minato did to their army during the IWA Konoha War years ago. As much as the Tsuchikage wanted to get back at Konoha for that, however, he had to take into consideration that Konoha had another Yellow Flash who was said to be stronger than the original. "You're dismissed," the Tsuchikage stated, "remove yourself from my sight. My business with you has concluded." "As you say, Tsuchikage-sama," Teiwa said as she bowed to the Tsuchikage, "but I hope you change your mind soon." She turned and left his office while fighting to keep her mouth from screaming a series of profanity in such intricate poetry that would even make a sailor blush. As Teiwa was leaving the office after closing the door behind her, "Perhaps I can be of some assistance to your leader," a jounin from behind her said. The kunoichi turned to see a 17-year-old male approaching her. He was geared in standard IWA jounin gear and uniform, with a pale white long-sleeve cloak being worn his jounin vest. On the back of his pale white cloak was the kanji for Iwagakure's Diamond Fang. "I overheard your conversation with the Tsuchikage," the jounin said. "Perhaps I can convince my leader to allow me to be a lending hand to this Kabuto fella of yours." "That would be most appreciated," Teiwa smiled. "The pleasure is all mine," the jounin replied. "Besides, there is someone in Konoha I'd like to see again." This particular male jounin was a ninja that sought to challenge Naruto for some time and establish Iwagakure as the dominant of the elemental nations. Many in IWA though told him that such actions would be ludicrous and completely suicidal, but he repeatedly told them that if presented with the opportunity, he'd accept the challenge. 6 days later in Nami no Kuni, following the event in Iwagakure, everyone in Nami no Kuni were happily going about their lives. There have been many changes in the country since Gato and his thugs' defeat by Naruto and Team 7. With the Great Naruto Bridge's completion since Naruto's last appearance, Nami no Kuni has been prospering greatly and business for everyone was doing great. No more did the people have to scavenge for food or pickpocket others for survival. Customers and business clients were coming from all over to do business with the country. Inari in the meantime was coming back from the academy after enlisting to become a shinobi of Nami no Kuni a few days after Naruto's departure. He promised himself that he would become a ninja not only to make his Naizen Naruto proud of him but also one who'd do everything in his power to protect all those precious to him. While on his way home, he wondered how Naruto was doing. Naruto's exploits was not oblivious to anyone in Nami no Kuni, especially not to Inari's family either. Inari found it almost hard to believe all the incredible things Naruto did after he left Nami no Kuni. He often wondered if he would ever measure up to Naruto's power and prestige. Inari's train of thoughts was derailed when a shadow cast over him. He turned around to see a taller figure looking down at him. "Who are you?" Inari asked before being answered with a smile on the figure's face. Present day, back in Konoha. Jiraiya was in his apartment, sitting by his desk on a futon with a cup of tea to his left on the desk. In front of him were a series of written notes and notepads he was reviewing while writing his next bestseller. After the success of his last rare gold edition, he was sure that this new story was going to be the next big hit in the market. Ika Ika Paradise, The Passion of the Teacher. This is a tale of how two different people who started off hating each other eventually found a mutual understanding for each other after the young man no older than 16 years old made the first move to form a better relationship with his 24-year-old female sensei, a beautiful but strong kunoichi. Through this, the older woman started to develop a special fondness for her apprentice as they spent more time with each other besides the time they spent training. As time went on, their bond grew stronger than just your everyday student-teacher relationship, and everyone was able to see that there was a form of growing love between them that many thought was taboo in the ninja world. One night, the young apprentice came to see his sensei at her home, only to find that she was upset and frustrated about something. Hating to see his sensei agitated about anything, he saw that he had to correct whatever it was that bothered her. So he interposed into her episode and got her to calm down enough for them to talk, and talk they did. And amazingly he managed to provide her the comfort she was sorely in need of. He held her and she allowed him to hold her, closely as they sat together on her sofa. They both knew this was outside the perimeters of their normal relationship as sensei and apprentice, but for the moment they dismissed all differences of age and rank. To him, none of that mattered. He was just a young man, trying to give a woman some well-needed comfort from her troubles. And it might have remained innocent and pure also, if his sensei didn't suddenly kiss him. A small peck on his right cheek, like the ones she gave him a few times before. But her lips found their way to his before they met in a light touch, which in effect sparked a fire in her soul as she felt his lips on hers for the first time. She had never been kissed by any man before, and this was her first time. The young man too had never been kissed by any woman, or by his sensei for that matter, in that manner she was kissing him. And that was when he realized the new territory he was in, very dangerous territory that crossed the boundaries of any student-teacher relationship. The kissing gradually deepened as it turned holding, then holding turned into caressing. The caressing turned into heated, very heated exploration. Then the exploration turned into the gradual discarding of clothes. And before the young man knew it, his sensei was riding him on her sleeping futon on her bedroom floor for all he was worth. She knew he could have stopped it at any moment, knowing he had more than enough power to stop her, sensei or not. But for the life of him, he couldn't pull away from her. The attachment and love he grew for his sensei overrode whatever earlier impulses that would have moved him to stop her. She was a lonely woman and kunoichi who needed someone for her, and he felt he was the one for her. So he simply let himself go as he expressed all of his built-up emotions he had for his sensei as the two of them made love in her bedroom. She knew she was his first, so she showed him how. And he knew he was the first man to ever touch her, so he made sure to make her feel like a woman. Jiraiya giggled lecherously as he continued writing the synopsis of his book. He thought about the possibilities his next great work would have, and he credited Naruto and Anko for his inspiration since the story was really based on them. If I'm lucky, Jiraiya thought gleefully, someone will even seek me out to get a contract deal to make a movie out of this story. Oh, the possibilities. With that ambition in mind, Jiraiya continued writing his next book, with perverted giggles escaping his mouth here and there. Meanwhile at one of the training grounds, Kano Amaru, Udon, and Mogi were at the training ground and Naruto haven't shown up yet. Naruto-sensei hasn't shown up yet, Udon noted. Thanks for stating the obvious, Kano Amaru retorted, I hope he doesn't give us some lame excuse for his latin dash dot. Kano Amaru wasn't able to finish his statement when he felt a strong constriction around him. He squealed in pain as he was lifted off the ground. Mogi and Udon were about to do something when they themselves got caught in constrictions of their own also. The trio looked and found that they were being constricted by pythons. With the way you three pay attention to your surroundings, Naruto said with the three constricting pythons extending from the sleeves of his white trench coat, I could have effortlessly killed all three of you. Hey, Kano Amaru yelled, let us go. You're the one who's late. Naruto had the pythons constrict around Kano Amaru and his two friends tighter. The three youths gasped in pain as they felt the muscles of the snakes squeezing into them. A ninja never announces to his enemies when he'll show up, Naruto said, all good ninjas must always be on their guard, otherwise they'll end up dead like how the three of you would have been if this were an actual battle. I get it, boss, Kano Amaru choked, we'll pay more attention next time. Like I said, Naruto remarked, if there were an actual battle there wouldn't be a next time because you all would be dead because of your lack of focus. Naruto released and dropped them to the ground. The three youths rubbed their sore bodies while cringing from the pain they were feeling. Understand that while you three are personally undergoing my training, Naruto said, I won't be going soft or easy on any of you because your enemies won't go soft or easy on you either. I'll schedule the days and at which locations we'll train at, but I won't at any time announce when I'll show up. You three will always have to be on your guard and watch each other's backs to keep yourselves from being ambushed by me. This was the same thing Enko-chan did to me when I had her for my sensei. Whenever I was caught with my guard down she'd throw a kunai to my face, cutting it on contact as a reminder that my lack of paying attention to my surroundings means death for me. Was that why she always got to lick your face so often? Kano Amaru smirked, or did you just let you guard down on purpose so you can have her on you? Naruto frowned at Kano Amaru before grinning at him. Before the three youths said or did anything, Naruto launched a kunai at Kano Amaru, causing it to graze across the boy's left cheek with blood seeping down his cheek from the open slash. Naruto suddenly appeared behind the boy with the same kunai being held against the boy's throat. Anything else you'd like to say to me, wise guy? Naruto asked coldly with bloodlust radiating off him. Mogi and Udon looked on at Naruto fearfully while being too scared to move. Kano Amaru was afraid of the possible malicious acts Naruto was going to do to him next. Like I said, Naruto remarked, I have no intentions of going soft of you guys because Kaa-chan and my trainers never went soft on me. Naruto placed his left palm over Kano Amaru's bleeding cheek and focused green chakra onto it. He healed the injury he inflicted on the boy before releasing him. What kind of training did you undergo at the academy? Mogi asked. Not trying to put the academy down, Naruto replied, but the academy didn't teach me anywhere near about my style of fighting or the training I underwent. What did your training involve? Udon inquired. Do or die, Naruto answered, those were my options in most of my training regiments. The three of them gulped in fear when they heard that. If that was the kind of training Naruto was subjected to while growing up, then that meant Naruto was going to have them undergo the same thing. The academy will teach you guys only so much, Naruto explained, but in regards to experience and practicality on the battlefield, those are things you won't gain or learn at the academy. There have been many cases of young people who became ninjas for the wrong reasons and motives without fully acknowledging what being ninjas truly entailed. Some become ninjas to satisfy their sole desire to become avengers rather than defenders. Others do it for power and fame. Some girls, fangirls to be specific, only become ninjas so they could impress and get close to some guy they like who is also a ninja. Such foolish reasons for becoming ninjas are dangerous and lead to the deaths of not only those people but also their comrades and those they were supposed to protect. Such people also give ninjas a bad name. Naruto paused momentarily as he allowed his words to be absorbed by Kano Amaru and his friends. I won't have wannabe avengers, fame and power seekers, or fangirls for apprentices, Naruto made clear, which is why I chose you three for my apprentices. None of you guys displayed any of the characteristics I mentioned and I see potential in all of you. I won't give you misleading beliefs that you'll become strong in no time. You all will have to work very hard to finish the new training I'll be putting you guys through. Haku-san and Ryota agreed to assist me in developing your elemental abilities. I plan on making us into a team like no other. So, are you three up still for the challenge? Bring it, Naruto-sensei, Kano Amaru replied confidently, whatever training you're planning, my friends, and I will dish it out and then some. If I'm to become Yondaime Hokage and your successor, then I have to overcome whatever challenges you throw our way. I may not dream of becoming Hokage, Udon spoke up, but that doesn't mean that I won't train as hard to become stronger and more useful to my friends and comrades. I will take on your challenge head on and not give up. Naruto nodded to the boys before turning to Mogi. What about you? Naruto asked. I didn't come this far to back out now, Mogi replied, if Kano Amaru-chan and Udon-kun can take it, then so can I. I will succeed at whatever you throw at us. That's good, Naruto smiled, because as of today, 6 Kage Bushins of Naruto materialized around him. I'm going to make your training twice as hard. Meanwhile in Suna, Gaara was standing on top of one of the high rocky walls surrounding Sunagakure. He looked over the entire village while having many thoughts travel through his mind. As the red-haired Jinhyuriki looked down at the village, he cast his eyes over the children running and playing together on the streets. He then looked to see a couple with their newborn baby daughter making their way to wherever they were going. Gaara found it interesting that these were the same people who shunned and scorned him harshly and wanted nothing to do with him. In the past, he figured that if he couldn't be loved and respected, then he would be hated and feared by everyone and have loved only for himself. He believed at one point that the only way to prove his existence was through mass genocide and the staining of his victims' blood in his hands. Gaara had always thought that he was the only Jinhyuriki and alone in the world, with no one being able to understand his pain, sadness, anger, and loneliness. Then Naruto came along and showed him that he didn't have to carry that burden alone anymore, since he was also Jinhyuriki. Gaara recalled all that Naruto said and done for him since the first day they met each other. Ever since then, Gaara's life gradually started changing for the better. It wasn't as fast as he'd like it to be, but it was a start. Learning to forgive others for their past mistakes was a lesson Gaara had to learn, and if anything, he realized that it had to start with himself and then his home village. He no longer wanted to be viewed as soon as bloodthirsty maniacal weapon. No, he wanted to be viewed as a shinobi who protected all those precious to him, with his life. And speaking of those precious to him, Gaara received reports from Konoha a couple of days ago as to whom Temari was betrothed to and where she was to be living at. Gaara, though he admittedly missed her, was most happily for his sister and wished her the very best with all of his blessings. He couldn't think of any other guy he found worthy of being with his older sister other than Naruto. He was certain that the blonde Jinhyuriki of Konoha would protect and treat his sister kindly. Gaara, a masculine voice called out. Gaara turned to see Kankuro making his way towards him. Is something the matter? Gaara asked in his usual monotone voice. No, everything is fine, Kankuro assured. The Jounins from Konoha just got through evaluating the training regiments and academy curriculum. They saw where more adjustments and corrections will have to be made. Gaara nodded to him as he turned his attention back to the village. Anyway, Kankuro continued, the two of us have been summoned by the council to report to them for a briefing of some sort. I'll be along with you shortly, Gaara replied while only turning to look at him halfway. The puppeteer nodded before leaving Gaara alone with his thoughts. While alone, Gaara took another look at the village that his father was the Kazekage to. If anything, his father left Sunagakure in a huge mess, not that their daimyo didn't have anything to do with it either. There was so much that had to be done in order to restore Suna and keep it and its people from being plunged by other elemental nations, not that Konoha would be one of them. With those thoughts in mind, Gaara turned and made his way to the Kazekage Tower. Later that afternoon, Naruto was at a barbecue restaurant with Kano Amaru, Udon, and Mogi. The three youths were exhausted and their clothes were rugged, worn out and torn in several places. True to his word, their training with Naruto was anything but pleasant. Whatever training Ibisu would have had them go through would have been looked at more as an act of mercy compared to what Naruto had them go through. And speaking of Ibisu, he was running errands and wouldn't be around until later. While they were there, the other genins came in and joined the four. Naruto-kun, Hinata smiled as she, Ino, Temari and the others walked in. Hey guys, Naruto greeted, what are you all doing here? We pretty much finished today's training, Shikamaru said. I was hoping to go cloud watching, but Ino insisted that we go and do something else. Well, we came back from doing some training earlier today also before coming to eat here, Naruto said. You all can join us if you want, my treat. You're paying? Chuji asked with a hopeful expression. It was no secret that Chuji's appetite was notorious and the only person he considers a rival was Naruto. Shikamaru thought, this will be troublesome for Naruto if he accepts. Naruto said, if you all want to pay for yourselves then dash. We accept, Kiba yelled as he and the others sat down at tables next to Naruto's. I hope you know what you're getting yourself into, Shikamaru warned. Chuji eats the most out of Asuma-sensei, Ino, and I combined. I'm not worried about that, Naruto said. I've seen how much Anko-chan eats and it amazes me how she could maintain that figure she has. That would depend upon how much of her figure you were freely allowed to see, Kiba snickered. Everyone here knows how close you were to your sensei. Before Kiba could add any more remarks, Temari came and smacked him on the head with her large metal fan. "You're more of a dog in heat than your pet Akamaru," Temari said. "Akamaru isn't my pet," Kiba barked, "he's my partner and friend. And that's more than what I can say for that stupid luggage you carry around and call a weapon." "Humph," Temari smirked conceitedly, "well, this luggage was more effective than your partner was for you." "What was that?" Kiba growled as Akamaru barked at the blonde wind mistress. Naruto sighed in annoyance at the scene, as did everyone else. It was like this every time Kiba and Temari were in the same room together. "It's understandable why Temari-san was promised to Naruto-kun," Sai remarked with a fake smile. "It's rather clear that her domineering demeanor is too much for weaker alpha males." "What did you say?" Kiba replied angrily while the girls burst out laughing for the first time at Sai's remark. Kano Amaru, Shikamaru, and Chuji snickered under their breaths while trying to keep their laughter from burst out. Sasuke huffed at the scene. "Pathetic," Sasuke thought to himself. "Knock it off, all of you," Naruto said, "we don't need a scene here." Kiba grumbled under his breath about grinding Temari into dog food before burying her remains in an unmarked grave. The atmosphere had calmed down by the time Haku and Ryota walked into the establishment. All thoughts of what Kiba wanted to do to Temari's corpse vanished when he saw Haku enter the restaurant. "Hey, Haku," Kiba said happily. Haku looked over at the group and went over to them. She greeted, "Hello everyone. Wanna join us, Haku?" Kiba offered. "You're not the one who's treating us to lunch, Kiba," Tenten rebuked. "It's quite alright," Naruto assured as he motioned for Haku and Ryota to join them. Ryota went over and sat next to Neji. Haku was about to follow when. "You can join our table if you want," Kiba offered. Shino simply adjusted his shades while Hinata held back a light giggle while watching Kiba's changed behavior. Many already knew about his huge crush on Haku, so it wasn't surprising that he'd turn into a complete idiot whenever she was around. Accepting his offer, the girl went over to their table and sat down next to the Inyazuka boy. Everyone took their menus and looked to see what they wanted to eat. After placing their orders, they waited until their meals arrived. Because Naruto was treating, Kiba ordered one of the expensive meals on the menu while Chuji ordered several dishes of barbecue beef and several side orders with them. Neji and Lee chose to be modest in their orders while the girls in general chose to eat light, something along the lines of keeping a watch over their figures. Sasuke, surprised that Naruto was even treating him to lunch, decided to get something since it was coming out of Naruto's pocket. Naruto ordered some food alongside what Chuji was having. It was a while before all of their orders were done and brought to them. Needless to say, everyone dug in and ate and talked to each other. Sasuke and Sai were more on the quiet side, though Sasuke contemplated on how he could improve in his training to become stronger and gain more power. Later, while most of the genins were done eating, Naruto, having finished one of the several orders he ordered, asked for the bill. When he got it, he shrugged it off and wrote a check before handing it over to the waiter. "How much was it?" Kano Amaru asked. "Enough to equal one of my Kaa-chan's debts," Naruto remarked. "Anyway, I'm the one who was treating, so don't worry about it." "I have to hang with you more often if you treat everyone this good," Chuji said, only to receive an agreement from Kiba, who still had his mouth full of food. "Naruto-kun doesn't need freeloaders eating out of his wallet," Ino snorted. Kiba ignored her and continued eating. Turning to the three youths, Naruto said, "I'd like to ask you all a question." "What is it, Naruto-sensei?" Kano Amaru asked. "How far are you guys willing to go to protect this village and all who live here?" Naruto asked. Kano Amaru answered, "I'll do whatever I have to protect Konoha. Since my goal is to become Hokage, I'll take whatever challenge comes my way in order to defend my homeland." "I feel the same way as Kano Amaru-kun," Udon said. "I'll do what would have to be done in order to protect the lives of everyone here." "And me too," Mogi added in. Naruto nodded his head while everyone else was watching and listening in on their conversation. "Would you guys be willing to go as far to kill if the situation calls for it?" Naruto asked. Kano Amaru and his two friends thought about for a moment before Kano Amaru said, "As ninjas of Konoha, I'm sure it'll be expected. Jiji and Asuma-jisan told me about it. But if I have to, then so be it, if it means the safety of this village." The others nodded their heads. "I see," Naruto continued, Would that including killing the person or persons you regard as your closest friends, comrades, or family members if it meant the preservation of this village and everyone who lives here? This question caught everyone off guard as they looked at Naruto questionably. Sasuke's ears perked up when he heard what Naruto said. Though Sasuke didn't look at Naruto as his closest friend, he had to admit that the blonde's question caught him by surprise like everyone else. That doesn't make any sense, Konohamaru retorted. How could I claim to be protecting this village if I'm killing those who are my comrades, closest friends, and family? Naruto-kun, Lee interjected, we swore to protect this village and killing such people as the ones you mentioned would contradict our oath as ninjas to defend the citizens of Konoha with our lives. Sai stayed quiet as he saw that there was a lot more to what Naruto saying. He waited until Naruto explained the purpose to his questions. Your question confuses us, Naruto-kun, Haku spoke up. How could killing those precious to us possibly lead to the preservation of everyone else? Everyone turned to Naruto as they awaited his answer. After a moment of silence, Naruto said, since none of you can think of any logical reasons to my questions, I'll tell you all an actual story of what happened here in Konoha more than 10 years ago that affects all of us today. Everyone quieted as Naruto started speaking. There were once 3 ninjas taught and trained by Sarutobi-sama, also known as Yondaime Hokage. These 3 ninjas later became known as the legendary Sanins of Konohagakure no Sato. Sometime later, ninjas ranking from genins to umbu started disappearing throughout the village and a search was sent to find these missing ninjas. It was later discovered that Orochimaru was the one responsible for these kidnappings. One night, a strong Konoha ninja with 2 of his umbu under his lead tracked Orochimaru down to one of his hideouts where he conducted his twisted experiments on the kidnapped ninjas. The leading ninja could have killed Orochimaru then and there, but feelings of his bond and sentimentalities of his past with Orochimaru overrode and clouded his judgments, thus making him unwilling not incapable of killing Orochimaru. This led to Orochimaru having the opportunity to escape from the village. Later another strong ninja went after Orochimaru and sought to bring him back. Likewise with the first strong ninja, this second ninja had the capacity to kill Orochimaru once and for all. But sentiments of the Snake Sun in being his best friend overrode his judgments. Thus like in the case of first strong ninja, the second strong ninja was unwilling, not incapable of killing Orochimaru. As a result of these 2 ninjas' unwillingness to kill Orochimaru, the traitorous Sunin committed many heinous crimes in many villages and became one of the most hated people to live. He later formed Otagakure no Sato and an alliance with Yondaime Hokage of Tsunagakure for an invasion of Konohagakure. But Orochimaru later betrayed and murdered the Hokage and posed as him, manipulating a village that was in desperate need of financial help. Continuing his charade as the Hokage, he used that disguise to get close enough to Mikao-chan in an attempt to kill her and Yondaime-sama during the invasion of Konoha. After the war to defend Konoha broke out, Orochimaru resorted to using a despicable S-rank Kinjutsu Kukiyos which he created to summon 4 of my ancestors, 2 of them being Hokages, my uncle who died as a kid and Kao-chan's former fiancé. In order to stop them and Orochimaru altogether, I had to do something the 2 ninjas before me didn't have the heart to do at the time. Not only did I use an S-rank Kinjutsu Oji to kill Orochimaru, but I had to use it to kill Shodaime-sama, Nidaime-sama, Noakajisen and Dan-san. It was a cruel and very painful pill to swallow that hurt me greatly, even now. But I did it in order to save and protect you guys and the lives of everyone in Konoha since my resurrected ancestors were sadly under the strong control and influence of Orochimaru's Kinjutsu. Orochimaru sacrificed 4 of his genins for his Kinjutsu Kukiyos and sadly they too suffered the same tragedy as my ancestors in being sealed away. So many people over the years suffered needlessly. I suffer by living with the memory that I killed 4 men who were special and precious to my Kao-chan in front of her. All this resulted because blinded feelings of attachments to a ninja turned traitor led 2 capable ninjas to not kill Orochimaru when they had the chances to do so. The follies of others could be lessons in themselves, but such lessons could be avoided if that person does what he or she must in order to prevent the suffering of others. Everyone there looked at Naruto in astonishment. Though Sasuke didn't want to admit it, even he was captured by Naruto's story. Shino and Sai understood Naruto's logic completely and they nodded their heads to the blonde in understanding. Haku was left speechless after hearing what Naruto told everyone. What were the names of these 2 strong ninjas of whom you speak, Naruto? Sasuke inquired. Their names are unimportant, Naruto remarked. What's important is the lesson behind the story. Sometimes in life we as ninjas must make the hardest choices at personal cost for the sake of many others. Allowing our emotions and bonds to those who willingly betray everything we as Konoha shinobis stand and fight for clout and warp our judgments can lead to dire consequences that can affect the lives of many today and those years down the line. I'm in no way saying that doing what those two ninjas didn't have the heart to do would be easy. If anything, it's one of the hardest things to do, especially if you've known that person for a long number of years. But when the situation calls for it, we must do what we must, in order to protect all those precious to us, even if it's at personal cost whatever it may be. Just then a Chiryunin entered the diner with a scroll in her hand. Naruto-san, the Chiryunin said as she went over to the blonde. Naruto turned to the Chiryunin. What is it? Naruto asked. This came in for you, the Chiryunin said as she handed Naruto the scroll. Naruto took the scroll and opened it. He raised an eyebrow when he found a seal in the scroll. The kanji on it read duel. Standing up, Naruto looked at the Chiryunin questionably, who gave this to you? The guards found the scroll lying on the ground in front of the main gate, the Chiryunin answered. After they picked it up, they found a note attached to it stating that it was to be brought to you personally. From where and whom it came from we don't know. Nodding in understanding, Naruto focused chakra into the seal and activated the seal, causing the scroll to burst into a puff of smoke. When the smoke cleared, a most unwelcomed figure appeared from the smoke. Son of Yondaime Hokage, the figure greeted. Naruto snarled when he saw the figure and Ryota jumped to her feet immediately, ready to fight when she saw whom the figure was. The Chiryunin too readied herself for anything. Hello Ryota-chan, the figure said turning to the former Iwa Jounin, it's been a while. The figure blew a kiss at Ryota, who snarled at the figure with hatred and disgust in return. Sujiro, Ryota's pet, otherwise known as Iwagakure's Diamond Fang. Bastard. Is that any way to greet a close friend and colleague Ryota-chan, Sujiro remarked with a sly grin. Asshole, Ryota replied, what the hell are you doing here? I'm here to offer your master, Namikaze Naruto-san, a chance to meet me in person, Sujiro said. Excuse me, Naruto retorted. Sujiro returned his attention back to Naruto, I would like to meet you in person. I'm sure Inari would like to see you again too, especially since he thinks so highly of you being capable of rescuing him from where I'm keeping him detained, alive for now anyway. Hearing those words made Naruto's blood boil as he released a fierce bloodlust from his being. Konohamaru and the others never felt a bloodlust this deadly. Naruto fought hard to keep himself under control. Sasuke, Sakura, and Sai knew of Inari and his family and wondered if the boy's mother and grandfather were in any danger also. I'll be in the mountains in Nami no Kuni, Sujiro said, be there within 8 days' time, otherwise I'll kill Inari and his mother Tsunami afterwards. I look forward to meeting you, as does Inari. Try not to disappoint the young boy, for his and his mother's well-being anyway. I'll be seeing you real soon, Naruto-san. The Sujiro lost color as he dissolved into a pile of dirt, revealing him to be Atsuka Bushin. There was a moment of silence amongst the group as Naruto battled with himself to remain calm and collected. It was a while before he finally calmed himself down. After what felt like an eternity of silence. Konohamaru, Udon, Mogi, Naruto said calmly, your training with me will have to be postponed until further notice. If you all will excuse me, I have some business to attend to. We're coming with you, Sakura said as she got up from her seat. I'd much rather you don't, Naruto replied. Naruto, Sakura said, Kakashi-sensei, Sasuke-kun, Sai and I were part of the mission to Nami no Kuni as much as you were. It's only right that we be there to help you on this one also. I'm sure Kakashi-sensei would dash. I appreciate your willing spirit to help me, Naruto interjected, but this situation involves a whole nation my father made enemies out of in Iwa no Kuni. This is a personal vendetta they have against my clan. You know they're planning a trap for you Naruto-kun, Ryota said as she went over to him, at least let me come with you. Sujiro was always an asshole and ambitious bastard and he was always flamboyant about it. Though I will admit he is a strong and most skilled ninja. Anything else we should know about him? Naruto asked. He drugged me once a little more than a year ago and almost got into my pants, Ryota bluntly remarked. he would have succeeded in raping me if the faulty drug had not worn off as fast as he hoped it didn't. I fought him fiercely that night, but it ended in a stalemate since I was still disoriented from the drug's side effects. I'd have killed him had it not been for the villagers taking his side. What? Ino replied with righteous feminine fury, but you were nearly a rape victim by a former fellow ninja. Why would they take his side over yours? Sakura added. When you're the former apprentice of a most hated S-class traitor, Ryota replied, who would take your side? That's stupid. Tenten stepped in. What he did completely dishonored and violated the code of the ninja. That's completely unforgivable. Evidently those who took his side didn't see it that way, Ryota said. I don't know how strong Sujiro has gotten since then, but I'm sure I can be of assistance to you, Naruto-kun, in fighting against him. Naruto thought for a moment as he took into consideration that Ryota was a jounin and former Iwa Kunoichi with some background knowledge of Sujiro. Plus he saw that he didn't know what Sujiro was scheming against him, and if Sujiro was as strong as Ryota made him out to be, then he'd need all the help he could get. Very well, Naruto replied, I'll take you along with me, Ryota, but the rest of you will all stay here and keep on guard. I don't know what Iwa is up to or if this ninja is acting solely on his own. If anything happens here while I'm away, it would do Konoha some justice to have capable ninjas around to protect it. Naruto didn't give Sakura or the others time to argue as he and Ryota hurried over to the Hokage Tower. Damn it, Sakura swore, he's so stubborn. Just like his father, Ino added, knowing about Minato from what Naruto told her and Hinata. The female Chiryunin, not seeing anything else she had to do, left and returned back to her post, leaving the genins to their thoughts, with Temari and Shikamaru being the only Chiryunins remaining in the restaurant. At the Hokage Tower, Anko was standing in front of Tsunade's desk giving her Ibiki's daily reports. The special jounin was about to leave when Naruto and Ryota burst into the office with an urgent look on his face. We have a problem, Naruto said. Naruto went into detail explaining to Tsunade everything that happened. Anko stayed to listen to the whole story. The Godame knew something like this would happen, but she always hoped it never did. Minato, Tsunade sighed, your past is now catching up with Naruto. Kaa-chan, Naruto said, I must go to Nami no Kuni. We both know that this could be a setup, Naruto, Tsunade said seriously, this is a dangerous gamble you're taking. Plus Tajuna-san didn't come here to give a mission to rescue his supposed kidnapped grandson. Be that as it may, Naruto argued, but the fact that he knows of my connection with Inari and his mother Tsunami is enough to tell me that he'll harm them if I don't comply with his demands within 8 days. I've gambled with death before, but I won't gamble with someone else's life, especially if it's the lives of those I care for. I refuse to put my personal well-being ahead of anyone else's. Tsunade knew she wouldn't be able to change his mind, especially since Naruto had his father's stubborn spirit. Needless to say, Tsunade saw the irony in that. After a moment she said, very well. You'll leave for Nami no Kuni with Dash. I'll accompany Yondaime Hokage on this mission, Anko spoke up. Naruto turned to the special jounin who shot him a confident grin, well, someone older and more mature has to keep an eye on you, and I am still your jounin sensei. I have to keep you from doing anything reckless. In truth, aside from actually helping Naruto as she intended, Anko saw this as an opportunity to talk to Naruto about something she's been meaning to tell him for some time now. You're not the only one going with him, Anko, Ryota spoke up for the first time after a long silence, he already agreed to take me along with him. Whatever, Anko remarked, not once feeling compromised, we'll just be a 3-person jounin team then. Tsunade, after seeing the logic in Anko's statement, agreed, very well. You 3 will depart together to Nami no Kuni tomorrow morning. Naruto will be the team leader. Understood. They all nodded. Good, Tsunade said, now, get yourselves ready for the mission. Dismissed. All 3 ninjas bowed to Tsunade before leaving. After they left, Tsunade sat and leaned back on her seat as she released a breath from her mouth. I'm getting too old for this, Tsunade sighed before opening her drawer and pulling out a bottle of sake in a cup. She was in need of something to relax and calm her nerves. The following day, Naruto and Ryota were up early in the morning making their way to the front gate. They weren't carrying any backpack since Naruto sealed all of their supplies in the scrolls he kept inside his white trench coat. When they arrived at the gate, they were surprised to find Anko already there waiting for them. "Are you two ready to go?" Anko asked while looking over at both Naruto and Ryota, who nodded to her as they turned to make their way out through the main gate. While leaving Konoha, Naruto could only wonder what the unknown future had in store for him and everyone else he knew. Check the description for the links to the author.